Every corner of this planet moves differently. Rainforests, ocean and ice, each with its own rhythm, its own rules. Some creatures hunt in silence. Others survive by staying hidden. Some travel thousands of miles for a single season, all of them sharing one planet. Today, we will travel through many corners of the natural world. But what we are about to see is still only a small part of everything this planet holds. Before sunrise, Yellowstone is quiet in a way that feels almost deliberate. Steam drifts across the valleys, catching the first gray light. Beneath the frost, rivers continue their slow work, cutting deeper into a landscape that has never truly stood still. Pine forests rise dark against the mountains, and in the silence, before the first calls carry across the valley, there is a strange feeling that the ground itself is breathing. That feeling is not entirely wrong. Yellowstone lies above one of the largest volcanic systems on Earth. Its heat still reaches the surface, appearing in places where the landscape seems to open onto something hidden below. Hot springs shine in colors that hardly seem natural. Geysers rise without warning, driven by pressure building far beneath the ground. Nearby, pools of mud bubble quietly as steam escapes through the earth. From a distance, a place like this can seem permanent. Mountains, rivers, and forests appear fixed in place, almost untouched by time. Yellowstone is different. The ground rises and falls so slowly that only careful measurements reveal the change. Rivers gradually reshape their banks. Fire clears parts of the forest, and new growth follows. What appears still is simply moving too slowly for us to see. These forces do more than shape the view. They influence what can live here. Around some thermal areas, warm ground leaves patches of grass exposed even during winter. Rivers open broad paths through the valleys, while forests provide shelter from the weather. As the seasons change, each part of the landscape offers something different. Together, they have created a place with enough variety to support an extraordinary amount of life. Nothing here was planned. The valleys were carved over time. Forests spread, burned, and returned. Water followed the easiest path downhill, while heat continued rising from far below. Gradually, the landscape became what it is today, a place shaped by movement, even when it seems completely still. A place where fire and winter can change everything. Yet life continues to return, and wherever the land provides enough room, shelter, and food, life finds its way in. Across Yellowstone, it has found countless ways to remain. As the light spreads across the valley floor, the first shapes begin to emerge from the mist. Dark, heavy shoulders, breath rising like steam from the geysers behind them. Before the sun has fully cleared the ridgeline, they're already moving, slow, unhurried, spread across the grassland in numbers that seem to belong to another era. The American bison. There is nothing quite like them anywhere else on this continent. Adult bulls can weigh close to a ton, yet they move with a strange, quiet grace, especially at this hour when the grass is still wet and the world hasn't fully woken up. They live in herds, sometimes small family groups, sometimes gatherings of hundreds, drifting together across the open range like something the landscape itself decided to arrange. Cows and calves stay close. Bulls often keep their distance, only joining the larger herds when the season calls for it. And the seasons here call for a great deal. Winter in Yellowstone is not gentle. Snow can bury the grass beneath feet of white, and temperatures drop far below anything most animals could survive comfortably. There is no urgency in the way they face winter. They move only when they need to, rest whenever they can, and ask no more from the landscape than it is willing to provide. Somehow, that has always been enough. Their coats help too, thick, shaggy, built for exactly this kind of cold. By the time spring arrives, that heavy winter fur begins to shed in uneven patches, and for a few strange weeks, the bison look almost ragged, caught between one season and the next. Spring also brings the calves, reddish-orange, small against their mothers, unsteady on legs that seem too long for their bodies. Within hours, most can stand. Within days, they can keep pace with the herd. It has to be that way. Watch them long enough and a pattern starts to emerge. These animals aren't simply living on this land, they're shaping it. Where bison graze, grass grows back differently, thicker in places, more varied in others. Their hooves break up soil that would otherwise stay hard and undisturbed. Even their wallowing, rolling in the dirt to shed insects and old fur, leaves shallow depressions that fill with rain and become their own small pockets of life. The grassland and the bison have been shaping each other for a very long time. It wasn't always guaranteed that this would continue. By the late 1800s, bison had been hunted to the edge of extinction, their numbers falling from tens of millions to only a few hundred. Yellowstone became one of the last places they survived at all. What exists here now, herds moving freely across open valleys, calves born every spring, grasslands shaped by their grazing, is not something that was inevitable. It came back from almost nothing. Today, the sound of a herd moving through the valley is one of the oldest sounds this land has to offer, hooves against packed earth. It's an easy sound to miss if you're not listening for it. As the bison move on, the valley begins to open around them again. The dust settles behind the herd, the grass slowly rises, and above the plain, a dark shape turns once in the wind. A bald eagle circles high over Yellowstone, riding the warm air without a single wasted movement. From the ground, it can seem almost still, held in place by the sky. But its eyes are working constantly, scanning the river, the shoreline, and the open country below. Its broad wings can stretch more than 2 meters from tip to tip, giving it the lift to travel across wide sections of the park while using surprisingly little energy. Even a distant river bend can be reached without a single wing beat. Here, the rivers provide much of what they need. Fish are an important part of their diet, and an eagle may wait for long stretches from a branch above the water before dropping suddenly toward the surface. The strike lasts only a moment. Powerful feet reach forward, the talons close, and the bird rises again with the current pulling beneath its wings. But bald eagles are not limited to hunting. They are careful opportunists willing to take advantage of whatever the landscape offers. A fish left near the bank, the remains of an animal after wolves have moved on, or food disturbed by another predator may all become part of the day. In winter, when cold tightens its hold on the park, this flexibility becomes especially important. Pairs often return to the same nesting areas year after year. Their nests are built high in strong trees, close enough to water for easy access to food. Each season, more branches may be added, and over time, the structure can become enormous. From there, the adults watch the river and the forest below, while the young remain sheltered above the ground. For all their strength, much of an eagle's life is spent waiting for the wind to rise, waiting for movement beneath the water, waiting for the right moment to leave the branch. The bird passes over the river and disappears beyond the trees. Below, the water continues to move through the valley, carrying scent along the bank and drawing another animal out from the forest. By the water's edge, something moves. Broad shoulders, a slow, rolling walk that never seems in any particular rush. The grizzly bear steps out from the tree line, muzzle low, testing the air before it commits to anything else. Bears trust their nose more than almost anything. A grizzly can pick up a scent from over a mile away, sometimes farther, carried on the wind down from the mountains or along the river. It is how they find much of what they need: roots, berries, insects beneath a fallen log, or a freshly caught fish from the river. This one is in no hurry to decide. It simply stands, reading the air, letting the landscape tell it what is worth investigating. Where the eagle watches from above, the grizzly searches from the ground. It moves alone, with no herd beside it and no pack following behind. Just one bear traveling through a landscape it seems to know intimately. Every ridge, every stretch of river, every patch of forest where the food changes with the season. And the season is changing now. Summer is generous here, but it does not last. Somewhere ahead lies a winter this bear will spend almost entirely asleep, and every meal from now until then matters. There is no panic in the search, though, only steady, deliberate effort, day after day, building towards something the bear cannot rush and will not ignore. It moves with a kind of calm confidence, unbothered by much of anything, not aggressive, not hesitant, simply sure of its place here. The way something can only be when it has spent its whole life learning a single stretch of land. Even here, life is rarely lived alone. Tiny parasites find their way through the bear's thick fur, feeding unnoticed for days at a time. But they don't always remain hidden. A black-billed magpie often follows bears for exactly this reason, searching patiently through the fur for an easy meal. One by one, it pulls the ticks free before swallowing them. The bear gains a little relief, the bird gains a meal, and for both of them, it's simply another ordinary part of life in Yellowstone. With the last of the ticks removed, the bear is left to rest. Before long, it will rise and continue through the valley, following scents and paths known only to itself. Soon, winter will close around these mountains, and the grizzly will disappear into the quiet until spring returns. Every landscape tells its own story, but no landscape exists in isolation. They flow into one another almost unnoticed. Shaped by the same rivers, the same changing weather, and the same passing seasons. Long before we reach the edge of one world, another has already begun. The forests slowly fall away, distant horizons grow wider, and the view begins to change once again. Some lives remain tied to the ground beneath them. Others are free to move far beyond it, crossing places that seem worlds apart. Our journey continues above the landscape into the world of birds. Every bird tells a different story. Behind every feather, every flight, and every call is a different solution to the same challenge: life in the wild. Some captivate us through extraordinary beauty, while others have evolved into hunters unlike any other, builders of remarkable engineering, and travelers that cross continents with astonishing precision. In this journey, we will follow these birds through moments both ordinary and extraordinary, taking the time to see their world from a different perspective. And perhaps, by the end, we will look at the skies around us a little differently. Some birds are admired for what they can do. Others seem to ask for something simpler, to be watched for a while. The lilac-breasted roller belongs to that second kind. Perched in open woodland and savanna, it carries colors that look almost painted by hand: turquoise, violet, green, chestnut, and a soft lilac wash across the breast. Its color is more than decoration. In open country, where branches stand against bright sky and dry grass, these colors make the bird impossible to miss. The lilac-breasted roller is often solitary or found in pairs, watching from exposed perches before dropping to the ground for insects, small reptiles, and other prey. Even at rest, it brings a sudden brightness to the savanna, a small piece of color held still in a wide sunlit world. Some birds feel familiar before we know anything about them. The scarlet macaw is one of them, a flash of red, blue, and yellow moving through the forest canopy. Its colors are unmistakable, but they are only the first thing we notice. This is a deeply social bird. Scarlet macaws are often seen in pairs, moving together through the trees and across open gaps in the forest. Their calls carry over long distances, keeping contact where leaves, height, and shadow can separate one bird from another in seconds. The beak is as important as the color. Strong and curved, it can crack tough seeds and nuts that many animals cannot open. In the rainforest, beauty is not separate from survival. In a forest of shadow and movement, these colors help the macaw remain visible to its own kind, while its voice carries where sight cannot. But not every bird seems extraordinary because of color. Some do it through shape, silence, and a presence that feels almost prehistoric. The shoebill stands in the wetlands of East Africa like something from another age, tall, still, and watchful. With a massive bill that gives the bird its unmistakable name. It does not need bright feathers to hold attention. Its strangeness is enough. Much of its hunting is built around patience. In swamps and papyrus marshes, the shoebill may stand almost motionless for long periods, waiting for fish, frogs, or even young reptiles to move within reach. Then, after all that stillness, the strike is sudden. The huge bill drops with surprising force, turning a quiet wait into a precise attack. In a world of reeds, shallow water, and hidden movement, the shoebill survives by becoming almost as still as the marsh itself. After the stillness of the shoebill, color returns in a form that feels almost ceremonial. The golden pheasant looks less like a bird moving through the undergrowth, and more like a small aristocrat dressed for an ancient court. A golden crest falls over the head. A striped collar wraps the neck like a decorative cloak. It is not the size that makes this bird unforgettable. It is the arrangement, the sense that every color has been placed with care, turning a quiet forest bird into something almost royal. Some birds command attention from the sky. The mandarin duck does it quietly on the surface of still water. It moves through ponds, slow rivers, and sheltered lakes with a kind of measured calm. The male's shape is what makes it so distinctive. The raised feathers along the back sit like small sails, changing the outline of the body each time the bird turns. On water, that shape becomes even clearer. Every reflection doubles the pattern, and every ripple breaks it apart again. Mandarin ducks are native to East Asia, where they are closely associated with wooded wetlands and quiet freshwater habitats. They are not birds of open ocean or fast current. Their world is more protected: edges of lakes, shaded banks, slow channels, places where trees and water meet. Their beauty is also temporary. The male's most striking plumage belongs to the breeding season. Later, after molting, he becomes much less showy, closer in appearance to the female. What looks like a permanent costume is really part of a cycle. On the water, the mandarin duck is not only a bright subject for the camera. It is a reminder that display in birds is not random decoration. Shape, posture, reflection, and season all become part of how the bird is seen. But not every remarkable bird is delicate. In the rainforests of New Guinea and northern Australia, The cassowary moves through the shadows with a weight few birds possess. It does not need flight to feel powerful. Its body is built for the forest floor. Strong legs, a deep chest, and a tall casque rising from the head like a natural helmet. The cassowary is often called one of the closest living reminders of how ancient birds can feel. Its feathers hang in dark, hair-like strands, softening the outline of the body as it passes between trunks and leaves. In dense rainforest, this shape makes sense. The bird is not made for open sky. It is made for pushing through vegetation, disappearing into shade, and moving with surprising speed when it needs to. Its power is not only in its size. Cassowaries feed heavily on fallen fruit, swallowing it whole and carrying seeds through the forest. In this way, a bird that looks almost prehistoric also becomes a quiet gardener of the rainforest. After birds of color, reflection, and delicate display, the cassowary offers something different. A bird whose power is felt before it needs to be shown. Birds can inspire admiration in many ways, sometimes through color, sometimes through shape, and sometimes simply through their presence. But beyond beauty lies another story, one written in patience, precision, and survival. Across the world, some birds are defined not by how they look, but by how they hunt. Across the open grasslands of sub-Saharan Africa, a tall raptor moves through the light on foot, long legs lifted above the grass. A straight back and a dark crest give it a silhouette unlike any other bird of prey. This is the secretary bird, a hunter shaped for daylight, distance, and open ground. Most raptors search from the air. This one reads the savanna from below. Step by step, it moves across the plain, conserving its strength while scanning the grass ahead. From its height, even the smallest disturbance can matter. A tail vanishing between stems, a sudden tremor in the dry cover, a movement almost too brief to notice. Its reputation is tied most closely to snakes. But the hunt is not reckless. It is controlled. The secretary bird keeps its body high, its vital organs far from the ground. Then, without warning, the calm of its walk breaks. Those long legs become precise instruments, a downward strike delivered with enough force to stun or kill before a snake has time to respond. The lower legs are armored with tough, thickened tissue, but the bird is never entirely safe. Survival depends on distance, timing, and accuracy. Every strike is a calculation. Snakes are not the only prey it follows through the grass. Lizards, rodents, insects, small birds. The day's search can take many directions. In this way, the secretary bird is not simply a hunter of snakes, but a quiet regulator of the open country, taking what the savanna offers and keeping smaller lives in balance. The head is built for exactly this kind of work. Forward-facing eyes judge distance with precision. Stiff lashes and a heavy brow protect against glare, dust, and struggling prey. The hooked bill still belongs to a raptor, but here, it often plays only the final role. The feet begin the hunt. The bill ends it. Though it spends much of its life walking, the secretary bird has not abandoned the sky. It rises strongly when it needs to, crossing distance, moving between territories, or climbing toward the safety of trees as the light fades. Flight here is not the hunt. It is a reminder that this bird belongs fully to neither world and is diminished by neither. Across East and Southern Africa, it remains one of the most recognizable presences on the open plains. Yet, in many regions, it is becoming harder to find. Expanding agriculture, fences, and the steady loss of connected grassland break apart the spaces it depends on. Where open country remains wide and intact, the bird still endures, a sign that the savanna has kept enough room for a hunter that needs distance above all else. The secretary bird shows how far evolution can reshape a familiar form. Here, long legs became weapons, and walking became a way to hunt. From the open grasslands, the journey now leads to a very different world, and to a bird that survives by mastering another kind of challenge. There are predators that chase, others wait. On the open Arctic tundra, the snowy owl does something quieter. It becomes part of the landscape, a pale shape against snow, stone, and low vegetation, still enough to be missed. Visible only when the head turns, and two yellow eyes begin to search the ground ahead. This is a hunter of open country. The tundra offers almost no cover, no forest edge, no shadowed branch, nothing to hide behind. Here, survival depends on distance, patience, and the ability to notice movement before anything else does. Unlike most owls, the snowy owl often hunts in daylight. In the Arctic summer, darkness may not come at all. So it watches beneath a sun that lingers for hours, scanning ridgelines, frozen ground, and patches of low tundra for the smallest sign of life. Its main prey is the lemming. Small, quick, and often hidden beneath grass or snow, lemmings are easy to overlook. But for the snowy owl, they can shape an entire season. When they are plentiful, the tundra becomes a place of opportunity. A single pair may find enough food to remain, hunt, and raise young across the open ground. When lemmings are scarce, everything becomes harder. The owl must search wider. Each movement in the grass matters more. Each failed strike costs energy that is difficult to replace. In a world this exposed, hunger is not dramatic. It is quiet. It waits in the distance between one successful hunt and the next. The body is built for this silence. Thick feathers cover the legs and feet, holding warmth close in freezing air. Broad wings carry the bird low over open ground. Its flight is soft, almost without sound. Not because the Arctic is gentle, but because any warning can send prey back beneath cover. A snowy owl does not need darkness to disappear. It uses stillness. It uses distance. It uses the pale world around it. From the open tundra, the journey turns toward water. Here, the hunt begins above the surface. The osprey is built for a world that never stays still. Rivers shift beneath the wind. Lakes flash with reflected light. Waves break the shape of anything moving below. To hunt here, a bird must read through water. It circles high at first, holding itself against the sky with long, narrow wings. The head angles downward. The body adjusts to every change in air and light. Below, a fish turns for only a moment. A pale flicker beneath the surface, then gone again. Unlike many raptors, this hunter is almost entirely tied to fish. Its eyes are made for distance and glare, searching through broken reflections for movement beneath the water. But seeing the prey is only the beginning. Water bends light. Depth is deceptive. A fish is rarely exactly where it appears to be, so the strike must be judged before it begins. When the osprey commits, everything narrows to the point below. Wings fold. Talons reach forward. The bird drops with sudden speed, adjusting as it falls, turning sight into calculation. For a moment, the hunter disappears in spray. The impact is heavy, but controlled. Beneath the surface, its feet close around the fish. Rough pads and curved talons help hold slippery prey that would escape almost any other grip. One toe can even turn backward, giving the osprey a stronger hold on both sides of the body. This is not a hunt built on silence or patience alone. It is a hunt built on commitment. The osprey must choose one point in moving water, fall toward it, enter another element, and rise again before the surface can keep what it has taken. Where the secretary bird turns walking into a weapon, and the snowy owl turns stillness into camouflage, the osprey turns the boundary between air and water into its hunting ground. Its world is measured in reflections, timing, and the brief instant when something below becomes visible enough to risk the dive. For many birds, survival is measured in moments. A successful hunt, a quick escape, a single careful decision. But survival is only part of the story. Every generation must begin somewhere, and across the world birds have solved that challenge in remarkable ways. Some use cliffs, others hollow trees or hidden reeds. Some build nothing at all. Others become architects, creating structures as extraordinary as the birds themselves. Among the grasses of Africa, a weaver bird begins with something almost insignificant, a single blade carried in its bill. It loops the strand around a branch, pulls it tight, and searches for another. One piece becomes several, several become a frame, and before long, a nest begins to take shape where, moments earlier, there was nothing at all. Unlike many birds that simply gather material, the weaver bird constructs. Each strip of grass is threaded, folded, and tightened into place, creating a woven structure that can withstand wind and constant movement. The result hangs beneath a branch like a carefully crafted basket. suspended where many predators find it difficult to reach. For the male, the nest is more than shelter. It is also a display of skill. During the breeding season, he may build several nests, investing hours of work into each one. Females inspect these structures carefully, entering, examining, and often rejecting those that do not meet their standards. If a nest is abandoned, the builder starts again, weaving a new one from fresh grass. What makes this remarkable is not the size of the bird, but the complexity of the task. It carries no tools beyond its bill and feet, yet creates a structure that remains secure through changing weather and constant motion. In many ways, the nest is an extension of the bird itself, a product of instinct refined over countless generations. For some birds, survival depends on speed. The weaver bird shows that sometimes it depends on architecture. Some birds spend much of their lives leaving their homes behind. Each year, the common crane begins a journey that can stretch across thousands of kilometers. As temperatures fall and food becomes scarce, families and flocks rise into the sky, following routes that have been repeated for countless generations. Wetlands, rivers, and open fields become temporary resting places before the journey continues once again. They rarely travel alone. Cranes gather into large groups, and in flight, they often form the familiar V-shaped pattern seen across autumn skies. This arrangement is more than a beautiful sight. By flying behind one another, each bird benefits from the air disturbed by the wings ahead, reducing the energy needed for such a long journey. Individuals may even rotate positions, sharing the effort of leading the flock. Unlike a straight line on a map, migration is a series of decisions shaped by weather, wind, and landscape. A favorable tailwind can save precious energy, while storms may force an entire flock to change course or stop for days. Throughout the journey, their loud, echoing calls help keep the group connected, even when distance and changing light make individual birds difficult to see. For the common crane, migration is not simply movement from one place to another. It is a rhythm repeated year after year, linking distant landscapes through memory, instinct, and the endless search for the next season. Every bird follows its own path. Some fill the forest with color, some master the hunt, some build with remarkable precision, and some spend their lives crossing continents in search of the next season. Together, they remind us that nature rarely solves the same challenge in the same way twice. The world above us is never as quiet as it seems. Every flight, every nest, and every distant call is part of a story that has been unfolding long before we notice it and will continue long after we look away. Perhaps that is the greatest wonder of all. There is always another journey waiting just beyond the horizon. From high above, the world looks surprisingly connected. Forests slowly give way to rivers. Rivers become wide plains. Mountains fade into distant horizons, and every landscape blends into the next without clear borders. For birds, these changes are simply part of the same journey. Eventually, the endless green begins to thin. Trees become scattered. The air grows warmer, the ground drier, and the horizon stretches farther than before. Here, there is little to hide behind. Every movement can be seen across the open grasslands, where both hunters and prey depend on distance, speed, and constant awareness. It is a place where life is always in motion, following the rhythm of the seasons and the search for water. This is the African savanna. In the savanna, survival often belongs to those who hunt. Yet hunting is only one thread in a far larger story. A story shared by every animal that calls the savanna home. The first voice of the savanna is not always a roar. Sometimes it comes as a sharp, uneven call carried low across the open land, something between a whoop and a cackle. Easy to dismiss, harder to forget. For the spotted hyena, that sound is never empty. It carries rank, urgency, hunger, or the signal that others should come quickly. Voice, here, is currency. At first glance, the hyena seems almost carelessly built. The shoulders sit high, the back slopes away, and the walk has an unhurried, rolling quality that can look like indifference. It is not. Every part of this animal reflects a life spent in a landscape that punishes waste and rewards patience. The jaws are the most obvious measure of that life. Few mammals on these plains can match their pressure. Bone, the part most predators leave, yields to a hyena without much effort. In the savanna, that ability opens a resource others cannot reach. A carcass, to a hyena, is never only what it appears to be on the surface. But reducing them to scavengers misses almost everything. Spotted hyenas hunt. They read herds the way experienced trackers read ground. Watching for the animal that favors one leg, turns a fraction too slowly, drifts to the edge. The pursuit that follows is rarely brief or spectacular. It is sustained, methodical, and draining. Hyenas outlast. They stay with an animal long after another predator might have abandoned the effort. There is something almost relentless in the way they work. Not aggressive exactly, but completely committed. What makes them genuinely remarkable is the range. A single animal may hunt before dawn, scavenge at midday, steal from a leopard by late afternoon, and follow the smell of something carried on the wind by evening. No fixed strategy, no hierarchy of methods. Whatever the landscape offers, they take. In a place where conditions shift without warning, that kind of flexibility is its own form of intelligence. Beneath that adaptability lies something more structured than it first appears. Hyena clans are societies in the proper sense. Females are larger and dominant. And the social order within a clan shapes nearly every interaction. Who feeds first? Who yields ground? Who earns room to grow? Young hyenas are born into this hierarchy and spend their early months making sense of it. The den becomes their classroom, a place of play and observation, of small confrontations that carry real consequence later. Communication runs through everything. A posture held a moment too long, the pitch of a call, the specific way one animal approaches another. These signals carry information that every clan member reads and responds to. What looks, from a distance, like disorder is usually something more deliberate. A social grammar running constantly beneath the surface. When adults leave the den to range, they carry the memory of this landscape inside them. Old paths, seasonal corridors, places where herds reliably appear. Their sense of smell extends this map even further, a trace on the soil, a scent left on dry grass, the faint, unmistakable signal of blood somewhere upwind. Their effect on the ecosystem reaches beyond what they consume. By processing carcasses completely, bone and all, hyenas accelerate the return of nutrients to the soil. It is unglamorous work. It is also essential. The savanna runs on cycles of death and renewal, and the hyena sits at one of the most critical points in that cycle. As the heat builds toward midday, the clan grows quieter. Some rest in shade. Others remain loosely watchful near familiar ground. The calls fade. The landscape seems, briefly, to hold its breath. But the hyena is still there, reading it, waiting, remembering. Not the most admired animal of the savanna, rarely the most visible, but among the most necessary and, in its own way, among the most intelligent. It survives not by fitting one role, but by refusing to be confined to any single one. In the savanna, the strongest animal doesn't always survive the longest. From a distance, a herd of zebras can look almost peaceful, drifting across open grassland, unhurried, as if nothing demands their attention. But watch more carefully. While some graze, others stand with heads raised, scanning. The calm is deliberate. Danger here rarely gives a second warning. A zebra is not built to fight. Its real advantage is the animal standing next to it, and the one next to that. Hundreds of eyes covering the same horizon at once. A shift in posture at the edge of the group travels inward faster than any sound. By the time most animals register what they're responding to, they're already moving. Those stripes play their part, too. Each pattern is unique, no two animals identical. But when a group moves together, that individuality dissolves into a single rippling mass of black and white. For a predator trying to fix on one target, it is genuinely disorienting. That moment of confusion, brief as it is, can be enough. Out on open plains, there is nowhere to hide, no terrain to use. What a zebra has instead is proximity, the low, constant hum of shared vigilance that never fully switches off. No leader, no single animal choosing the direction, just countless small reactions flowing into one, and zebras are only the beginning. Across the savannah, the same logic plays out at a scale that's hard to comprehend. Wildebeest, gazelles, impalas. During the Great Migrations, they stretch beyond what the eye can follow. From above, they look less like individual animals and more like a slow tide crossing the earth. These gatherings are never fixed. They form, break apart, and come together again. Pulled by rain, fresh grass, the memory of water. Year after year, the same roots reappear, worn into the ground by generations that are long gone. What looks like serenity from a distance is anything but. One animal catches a scent, breaks stride, turns. And within seconds, hundreds follow. The entire shape of the group bends before most have any idea why. No coordinator, no signal anyone could point to. Just information, moving faster than thought. As they pass, the ground itself changes. Soil is broken open, seeds scattered, grass kept from overrunning itself. These animals are not simply crossing the land. In a quiet way, they are maintaining it. For anything that hunts, the great gatherings are both an invitation and a puzzle. Targets everywhere, but almost no way to reach one. Bodies pressed together, directions shift without warning, and whatever weakness exists inside the mass stays buried within it. Somewhere beyond the grass, past the edge of all that motion, something is already watching, still, patient, waiting for the moment the order fractures, and one animal, just for a second, finds itself alone. In the open grasslands, life follows the rhythm of the heat. As the day grows hotter, movement slows. Lions are no exception. Much of the day is spent in shade, conserving energy they will need when the light softens. The lion is one of the few truly social cats. A pride is built around related females that stay in their birthplace for life. Their daughters grow up among aunts and sisters, forming a stable core. Adult males usually arrive as a coalition, take over for a few years, and then move on when younger rivals push in. Males invest in defense. They patrol boundaries, scent mark with urine and scrape the ground, and give full-voiced roars that can carry across several kilometers. The mane is a clear signal, age, condition, and status made visible. But it also offers some protection in fights. It comes with a cost in heat. On a hot day, a heavy mane is something to manage. Females hold the pride together. They keep track of cubs, of each other, and of the shifting herds beyond the trees. They are the main hunters, and they work best as a team. Success is not constant, so they save their energy carefully. It is common for lions to rest for most of the day, then stir as the air cools. Hunting here favors patience and coordination. Lions move at dusk and at night, when their eyes perform well and the wind is easier to read. They use cover, grass, small rises, the edge of an acacia stand, and approach upwind. A loose semicircle can close around a target while another lion waits ahead. When it works, the effort looks simple. It rarely is. Prey varies by region. Zebra, wildebeest, and buffalo are common targets on these plains. But small game is taken when it is practical. Most attempts fail. Teamwork raises the odds, so family ties matter to the hunt as much as to the den. Cubs are the most guarded investment. After a gestation of about 110 days, a lioness keeps her newborns hidden for the first weeks. They start on milk, and several females may nurse each other's young, a small advantage in a landscape where survival is never guaranteed. When the pride feeds, mothers pull meat aside for the smallest mouths. Mortality is high in the first year, especially after a male takeover, so vigilance is constant. Play is not idle here. Stalking, pouncing, and wrestling rehearse what will later pay for the pride. Adults allow space for it and sometimes join in for a moment. It strengthens coordination, builds muscle, and teaches boundaries. Social grooming does the same at a slower pace. Tongues draw through fur. Scent is exchanged. Tension ebbs. Communication is layered. Head rubbing, nuzzling cheek to cheek, reinforces familiarity. Low grunts keep the group in contact in tall grass. Roars align members at dawn and dusk and warn rivals at distance. These sounds stitch the pride together across open ground. The body fits the climate. A sandy coat blends with dry grasses. A layer of fat is modest, so shedding heat is easier. Panting and rest help regulate temperature. Nights belong to the eyes, aided by a reflective layer that gives them a second chance at incoming light. Whiskers map space in the dark. Hearing is keen enough to track hoofbeats through wind. Territories shift with resources. Where prey is abundant, ranges shrink. Where it is scarce, lions roam. Waterholes cluster life during the dry months and can draw prides into tense contact. In some regions, seasonal migrations move the food supply across hundreds of kilometers. Lions adjust, shadowing herds or wading along habitual paths. Their influence reaches beyond the hunt. By taking large herbivores, lions can open space for vegetation to recover, and their kills feed a chain of scavengers, from hyenas and jackals down to beetles and microbes in the soil. Energy moves outward from every carcass, and the grass grows from what remains. In the cool hour before sunrise, the savanna begins to stir once more. Birds call, insects start again. Lions settle after a night's work, or rise to try once more. The pride disappears into the tall grass. Another night has passed, another hunt is over. Yet across the savanna, life moves on. As the sun climbs higher, new journeys begin. And among the largest travelers on these plains, few leave a greater mark upon the land than the elephants. As the sun climbs higher over the savanna, another giant begins its day. Elephants move at a pace that seems unhurried, yet few animals shape the landscape more than they do. Their paths wind across plains, through woodlands, and between distant water sources, connecting places that have been visited for generations. A herd is more than a gathering of individuals. It is a family held together by memory. Older females guide the group, leading them along routes learned over many years. The youngest walk in the center, surrounded by protection from every side. There is a quiet confidence in the way elephants travel. They rarely rush. Each step is deliberate. Each movement seems part of a rhythm older than the grasslands themselves. Their trunks are among the most versatile tools in the animal kingdom. Powerful enough to move fallen branches, yet sensitive enough to pick up a single blade of grass. They are used for feeding, drinking, communication, and exploring the world around them. Elephants are also known for their remarkable memory. Seasonal water holes, safe routes, and distant feeding grounds can remain part of that memory for many years, helping herds navigate landscapes that are constantly changing. Water is rarely far from their thoughts. In dry seasons, it becomes the center of daily life. Journeys grow longer, and every source of water becomes a destination shared by countless other animals. Despite their size, elephants are often calm. They spend much of their lives avoiding conflict, relying instead on awareness, experience, and the strength of the herd. A raised head, a shift in posture, or a low rumble can carry meaning across surprising distances. As the day moves on, the herd continues its journey across the savanna. Behind them, the landscape slowly settles once more. Among the scattered acacia trees, another familiar figure moves across the savanna. The giraffe sees the landscape from a perspective few other animals can match. Its long neck allows it to reach leaves growing high above the ground, feeding where many grazers simply cannot. A dark tongue, often reaching more than 40 centimeters in length, helps pull foliage from between sharp thorns with surprising precision. There is little urgency in the way a giraffe feeds. Step by step, it moves through the trees, pausing beneath one canopy before drifting toward the next. From this height, the savanna stretches far into the distance. Herds gather and disperse below, while the giraffe continues its quiet search among the branches, turning the upper reaches of the landscape into its own world. Across the open plains, speed belongs to a different hunter. The cheetah is built for pursuit. Its body is light, its limbs long, and every part of its frame seems shaped by movement. Even at rest, there is a sense of tension beneath the surface, as though energy is being carefully stored for a moment that has not yet arrived. Unlike many predators, a cheetah rarely relies on strength alone. It depends on timing. Hours can pass in quiet observation. The grass shifts in the wind, herds drift across the landscape, and the cheetah waits. Patience is as important here as speed itself. When an opportunity appears, everything changes. Acceleration comes almost instantly. The chase is brief, measured in seconds rather than minutes. A flexible spine stretches and contracts with each stride, allowing the animal to cover ground with remarkable efficiency. Yet such effort comes at a cost. After a sprint, recovery is essential, and the hunter must pause while the savanna continues around it. Life for a cheetah is often a balance between opportunity and risk. Larger predators can steal a hard-earned meal, forcing caution even after success. Because of this, every decision matters. A chase begun too early may fail. A chase begun too late may never begin at all. As daylight softens, the plains return to their familiar rhythm. Herds continue their movements. Birds cross the fading sky, and shadows lengthen across the grass. Somewhere among them, the cheetah remains watchful, waiting for another brief moment when stillness gives way to speed. Across the savanna, not every animal relies on speed. Some depend on something far older: strength, patience, and a presence that few others choose to challenge. The rhinoceros moves with surprising quiet for an animal of its size. Step by step, it follows familiar paths between feeding grounds and water. Its poor eyesight is often matched by an excellent sense of smell, allowing it to gather information carried by the wind long before anything comes into view. From a distance, the rhino can seem almost prehistoric. Thick skin forms a natural armor, and the horn that defines its silhouette has made it one of the most recognizable animals on Earth. Yet much of its day is spent in simple routines: feeding, resting, and moving steadily through the landscape. Mud plays an important role in that routine. A wallow provides relief from heat, helps protect the skin, and leaves behind a coating that can discourage biting insects. On hot afternoons, a muddy pool can become as valuable as shade. Despite its formidable appearance, a rhinoceros is often calm when left undisturbed. It asks little of the savanna beyond space and time. As the light begins to soften once more, the animal continues its slow journey across the plains, following rhythms that have endured for countless generations. There is another predator worth mentioning. More than any other hunter on these plains, it depends on cooperation. For African wild dogs, success is rarely the work of a single individual. It belongs to the pack. African wild dogs live and move as a pack. Every member has a role, and success depends on the group rather than the individual. Before setting out, they often greet one another with excited movements and soft vocalizations, reinforcing bonds that help keep the pack together. What follows can seem almost effortless, but it is built on coordination refined through countless hunts. Few predators spend as much time together as African wild dogs, whether resting in the shade, moving through the grasslands, or preparing to set out. The pack remains closely connected. Cooperation extends far beyond the hunt. Food is often shared, and even injured or weakened members may continue to receive support from the group. Communication is constant. Brief calls, shifting postures, and subtle movements help keep individuals aware of one another. The result is a social structure built on coordination and trust, allowing the pack to function as something greater than the sum of its members. As daylight fades across the savanna, the familiar rhythms of the plains continue. Herds follow ancient paths, predators retreat into the shadows, and countless lives move through the grass unseen. Across the open plains, the largest animals are often the easiest to notice. They shape the landscape with every journey, every hunt, and every changing season. But size has never been the measure of importance. Closer to the ground, hidden among leaves, branches, and blades of grass, another world is constantly at work. A world where every movement matters, every encounter carries risk, and every tiny life plays a part in keeping nature in balance. It is a world that often goes unnoticed. Something moves through the grass. Too small to cast a shadow, too quick to follow, gone before the eye can settle. Most of us walk past this world every day without a second glance. And that, in a way, is exactly what it counts on. This is the world we are about to enter. Look down, not at the horizon, not at the canopy overhead, but at the ground beneath your feet, at the patch of bark on the nearest tree, at the leaf edge catching the light. That is where this story begins. The jumping spider does not wait. While most of its relatives hang motionless in silk, trusting geometry and patience, this one walks, stalks, turns its head to examine something that caught its attention a moment ago. There is a quality to its movement that is difficult to name, not quite hesitation, not quite confidence, something between the two. Thousands of species carry this family name, spread across nearly every environment on Earth. Some are so well camouflaged against bark or stone that finding one feels almost accidental. Others, particularly in tropical regions, are almost absurdly vivid, patterned in ways that seem to belong on something far larger. The variety is enormous, but one thing connects them all. Those eyes. The large front-facing pair gives the jumping spider something genuinely unusual in the arachnid world: the ability to see in sharp detail, at close range, in full color. Most spiders navigate primarily through vibration, through the tremor of a web. Jumping spiders watch, they track. When one fixes its gaze on you, there is an unsettling sense that something is actually looking back. During a hunt, that gaze becomes a tool. The spider spots prey, pauses, and begins to reposition, slowly, without rushing, until the geometry feels right. Then it moves. The leap can cover many times its own body length, precise enough to land directly on a fly or beetle. Before leaving the surface, it attaches a thread of silk behind itself, a safety line, almost incidental, released without breaking stride. In Australia, the males of one group, the peacock spiders, take this further. During courtship, they raise their legs and fan out sections of the abdomen that carry patterns of extraordinary color: blues, oranges, iridescent greens, arranged in forms that seem almost deliberate. The display is performed for a single female a few centimeters away. At that scale, it is one of the most elaborate performances in the natural world, and one of the easiest to miss entirely. But perhaps the most unexpected thing about jumping spiders has nothing to do with color or precision. Researchers have found that some species, when direct access to prey is blocked, will move away from their target, lose sight of it entirely, and navigate toward it from a different angle. The spider is not reacting to what it sees in the moment. It has already decided where it needs to be. For an animal measured in millimeters, that is a remarkable thing to carry inside such a small head. And yet, in this world close to the ground, the jumping spider is far from alone in its sophistication. At first glance, it looks less like an insect and more like part of the flower itself. The orchid mantis lives among the forests of Southeast Asia, where appearance can be as lethal as any weapon. Its body carries shades of white, pink, and pale purple. The legs broaden into petal-like lobes, dissolving the boundary between animal and plant. To a passing bee or butterfly already drawn toward color, the distinction barely registers. This is camouflage taken somewhere unexpected, not concealment, invitation. The orchid mantis doesn't disappear into its surroundings. It becomes something other animals actively move toward. Yet color is only one solution. Far from the brightness of tropical petals, another species has gone in the opposite direction entirely. The dead leaf mantis is exactly what its name suggests: flattened, uneven, edged with the irregular outline of something dried and discarded. Browns, dark ambers, the occasional streak of near black. Nothing about it suggests life. Even its movement plays a role. Traveling through vegetation, it sways faintly, mimicking the drift of a leaf in a breeze. Stillness alone isn't always enough. Sometimes the disguise only holds if the whole body behaves like the thing it's pretending to be. One resembles a flower, one resembles debris. Both are hunting. Most mantises, though, are neither pink nor brown. The green mantis that turns up in gardens and grasslands across much of the world looks straightforward by comparison, and in some ways it is. But its behavior is harder to dismiss. Unlike most insects, it can rotate its head to follow movement without shifting its body. Watch one long enough and something feels different about it. Less automatic, more considered. Those large, forward-facing eyes give it genuine binocular vision, the ability to judge distance accurately, which matters when your strike has to land in a fraction of a second. The forelegs, folded beneath the body in what inspired the name praying mantis, are built for exactly that moment. Lined with sharp spines, driven by muscle capable of moving faster than the eye can follow. What's easy to overlook is how early all of this begins. When young mantises emerge from the egg case, they are already recognizable, small, complete, unmistakably themselves. No larval stage, no intermediate form. The adult is already there in miniature from the very first day. Flower, dead leaf, or motionless green stem, each a different answer to the same problem. What's striking is how many answers there turn out to be. Not every insect hides. Some make an entrance. The carpenter bee arrives with a buzz you feel before you hear it. Low, resonant, the kind that belongs to something bigger than you expected. Catch one in the right light, and the wings shift with an iridescent sheen that seems almost out of place on an insect. For a moment, it looks less like a bee and more like a piece of jewelry that got loose. Despite the resemblance to bees most people know, the carpenter bee operates on entirely different terms. No colony, no queen, no shared comb. Each female builds her own nest alone. Not by gathering material, but by removing it. Using her jaws, she cuts directly into dead wood or bamboo, carving out a tunnel where her eggs will develop. The result is hidden inside the timber itself, invisible unless you know to look. For their size, carpenter bees are surprisingly unhurried. They move between flowers at what seems like their own pace, hovering briefly, drifting on, occasionally pausing in midair as if reconsidering. Calm is the word that comes to mind. Purposeful, but calm. The honeybee works on a different scale entirely. Individually, a honeybee is easy to overlook. A few millimeters of wings and instinct, gone before you've properly registered it. But step back and look at what tens of thousands of them produce together, and the picture changes completely. Inside a hive, no single bee understands the whole operation. There is no manager, no blueprint pinned to the wall. Workers clean, feed larvae, store food, control temperature, and guard the entrance. Each responding only to immediate signals, with no sense of the larger system they're maintaining. And yet, the system works. When a forager finds a good source of nectar, she returns to the hive and dances. Not metaphorically, literally. The waggle dance encodes both direction and distance, giving other workers the coordinates of flowers they've never visited. In the dark interior of a hive, information travels as movement. The comb they build from their own wax has puzzled engineers for a long time. Hexagonal cells packed together without gaps use the minimum possible material to create the maximum possible space. It is a very elegant solution, arrived at without a single calculation. What's hardest to grasp is the timescale. Individual bees live only weeks. Generations overlap continuously. No single worker will ever see the colony complete. And yet, the hive persists, not despite the turnover, but somehow because of it. A carpenter bee works alone and builds something that lasts a season. A honeybee is one of 50,000 and builds something that outlasts them all. Among the flowers where both of them feed, another chapter of this world is already beginning. Near ponds, rivers, and quiet stretches of water, a different shape patrols the air. A dragonfly rarely seems in a hurry. It glides, pauses, changes direction, then drifts onward again. From a distance, the movement looks effortless, almost weightless. Dragonflies are easy to think of as a single thing, a flash of wings above a pond, a silhouette crossing the water. But look closer, and the variety becomes difficult to ignore. Some are electric blue. Others glow red, green, gold, or almost metallic in the sunlight. Even among insects, the range feels unusual. Yet beneath the colors, the shape remains instantly familiar, a design that has endured for far longer than the landscapes we know today. These insects were already here long before grass covered much of the land, long before most familiar animals existed at all. The ancient relatives were larger, but the blueprint has barely changed. Slender body, transparent wings, and eyes that take up most of the head. Whatever this design is doing, it has been doing it for a very long time. Those eyes are worth a moment's attention. Thousands of individual lenses, covering almost the entire surface of the head, feed into a view of the world that is difficult to imagine from the outside. Not just wide, genuinely panoramic, tracking motion from nearly every direction at once. A dragonfly doesn't need to turn to know something is moving behind it, which may explain why they seem so permanently alert. Hovering above the water, inspecting a reed, circling a patch of open air for reasons that aren't immediately obvious, then gone, across the surface before the eye can follow. On warmer days, one might settle on a stem and stay there. Wings open, still, catching whatever light is available. The water below reflects the sky. For a moment, nothing moves. Then it lifts, and the pond returns to its usual business. Season after season, dragonflies come back to the same stretches of water. The individuals change. Most adults live only a few weeks, but the pattern holds. Something about that quiet persistence, repeated across every pond and river on Earth, is quietly extraordinary. Across the surface, one passes another. Ripples spread through the reflection below, and somewhere beyond the reeds, another story is already waiting. Across the surface, one passes another. Ripples spread through the reflection below, and somewhere beyond the reeds, the variety of this world continues in directions that are harder to anticipate. Some of what lives here resists easy description, not because it is hidden, but because nothing quite prepares you for it. The giant centipede moves across the forest floor with an unsettling smoothness. Dozens of legs, working in sequence, producing something that looks less like an animal navigating terrain and more like the terrain itself shifting. Every limb knows its place. Nothing hesitates. Elsewhere, a caterpillar goes still. For days, sometimes weeks, it disappears inside a chrysalis, sealed off, inaccessible, apparently doing nothing. What actually happens inside is one of the stranger processes in nature. The caterpillar essentially dissolves, and something entirely different assembles itself from what remains. When the butterfly finally pulls free, wings still creased, still finding their shape, the change feels less like biology and more like a conjuring trick seen too slowly to quite believe. Not every transformation is so dramatic. Some insects simply arrive already looking wrong for the world they inhabit. The jewel beetle carries a surface that catches light the way polished metal does. Shifting, iridescent, belonging more to a display case than a forest. On a piece of bark, it looks like something someone dropped. Others invest in concealment of a different kind. The young spittlebug builds itself a small fortress of foam produced from plant sap that hides it almost completely from anything passing by. From the outside, it looks like a bubble of nothing. From the inside, it is apparently sufficient. The atlas moth takes a different approach to its brief adult existence. With a wingspan that can exceed a human hand, it emerges from its cocoon already committed to a life without feeding. No functioning mouth, no time for it. Everything it needs was accumulated before the wings unfolded. It has, at most, a few days. It uses them. And then, There is the vinegaroon, which looks at first encounter like something assembled from spare parts. The claws of one animal, the tail of another, the general unsettling presence of something that hasn't quite decided what it is. When threatened, it releases a spray with a sharp, acidic smell, the source of its name, and a surprisingly effective argument for being left alone. Most of it unfolds where we rarely think to look, beneath bark, inside stems, across the surface of a pond at first light. A world that has been running continuously, in one form or another, since long before anything resembling us appeared on this planet. It did not wait for an audience. It does not require one. What we've seen here is a fraction, a brief window left open. A spider, mid-leap, already certain of where it will land. A bee returning to a hive that somehow knows what to do with the information she carries. A mantis, motionless for so long it has become part of the plant beneath it. These are not exceptions. This is simply what the world looks like, one layer down. The insects do not rest. Season after season, the same ponds, the same trees, the same stems, occupied by something new that behaves exactly like what came before. The individuals change. The work continues. We tend to think of nature as something out there, somewhere beyond the edge of the city, requiring a long journey to reach. But step outside and look down. Look closely at the nearest patch of grass, the bark of the nearest tree, the surface of the nearest still water. It was there the whole time. No matter where life takes root, even the smallest creatures become part of something far greater. Together, they help shape the forests, the rivers, and the countless ecosystems that depend on them. In some places, that connection becomes impossible to ignore. There are landscapes where nearly every branch, every leaf, and every drop of water supports life in one form or another. Among them stands the largest rainforest on Earth, the Amazon. For a brief moment, the Amazon can seem like a place defined by pursuit, where survival is measured in seconds and every movement carries consequences. But that is only one small part of its story. Beyond the chase lies a forest shaped by millions of quieter lives. A world where every layer, from the rivers below to the canopy above, is connected by relationships far older than any predator or prey. Today, we'll explore that hidden world and the remarkable animals that have spent millions of years learning how to survive within it. There is a particular quality to the Amazon when something large is moving through it, not sound exactly, more like the absence of it. Birds going quiet in a sequence that travels through the trees ahead of whatever is coming. Other animals read this the way we might read a warning. The forest doesn't panic. It simply adjusts. The jaguar is responsible for that adjustment more than any other animal here. Not because it hunts constantly, or because it dominates through noise and display the way some predators do, but because its presence alone changes the behavior of almost everything around it. Prey animals don't need to see a jaguar to respond to one. They respond to the forest's response to one. That kind of influence, felt before it's witnessed, is something very few predators achieve. In size, the jaguar sits below the lion and tiger. In this particular environment, that comparison doesn't mean much. The Amazon is not a landscape that rewards the biggest or the fastest. It rewards whoever can navigate broken terrain, shallow water, dense undergrowth, and failing light, and do it quietly. The jaguar is built for exactly that combination. Compact, muscular, and surprisingly comfortable in water, it operates in conditions that neutralize most of the advantages larger predators rely on. Water, specifically, is where the jaguar's range expands beyond what most people expect from a cat. It swims readily and hunts along riverbanks and flooded ground that other large predators tend to avoid. The Amazon basin floods seasonally on a scale that reshapes the landscape. Rivers spill into forest, land becomes water, familiar routes disappear. For most animals, this is a disruption. For the jaguar, it's an extension of territory. Caimans, river turtles, and fish become available in ways they wouldn't be to a strictly land-based hunter. There is no safe side of the river, which is something the Amazon's other animals seem to understand. The coat is camouflage, but not in the way the word usually implies. It doesn't match a single background color or texture. What it does is break up the body's outline in an environment that is already visually fragmented. Trunks, shadow, shafts of light, moving leaves. The rosette pattern makes the jaguar hard to resolve as a solid shape against that kind of background. Not invisible, just difficult to read until it's already close. Hunting, for the jaguar, is not a constant activity. It moves, rests, patrols, waits. In a forest this dense, a failed attempt costs real energy and yields nothing, so the emphasis falls on precision rather than frequency. It will follow something patiently, adjust its position, and wait for a moment that may not come, and if it doesn't, try again another time. The jaw is among the strongest of any cat, capable of penetrating the shells of river turtles and the skull plates of caimans. When the jaguar does commit, it tends to be decisive. Most of its life, though, looks nothing like a hunt. It looks like a large, self-possessed animal moving through a forest it knows extremely well, in no particular hurry. The animals that share this landscape with the jaguar have developed their own ways of managing the risk. Capybaras, the largest rodents on Earth, a title that consistently surprises people encountering them for the first time, have built their survival around water in a way that's worth understanding properly. They don't simply live near rivers. They use them architecturally. The eyes, ears, and nostrils are set high on the skull, close enough together that a capybara can submerge almost its entire body and still maintain a clear picture of what's happening above the surface. In a landscape where threats arrive from multiple directions and rarely announce themselves, that arrangement is more valuable than almost any defensive weapon. On land, capybaras move in groups, not because there's any formal social contract, but because the arithmetic of collective awareness works in their favor. A group of 20 animals scanning in different directions processes information faster than any single individual could. When one animal's posture changes, the others notice. It doesn't require a sound or a signal. The change in behavior is enough. This attentiveness can make capybaras look anxious, but watch them for long enough and something else becomes apparent. They are genuinely calm, grazing, resting, occasionally moving into the shallows. And that calm is not naivety. It reflects a reasonably accurate assessment of the current situation. When something changes that assessment, they respond immediately. When nothing does, they conserve energy and get on with feeding. The riverbank they occupy is rarely used by them alone. Small birds work through the grass around them, picking insects disturbed by the capybara's movement. Turtles occupy the same logs and mudflats. Herons stand in the shallows nearby. None of these animals are cooperating in any intentional sense, but they benefit from proximity. More eyes, more early warning signals, more general information about the state of the immediate environment. The Amazon runs on these kinds of incidental relationships, most of which are never named or categorized, but function reliably regardless. Capybaras are also, unexpectedly, important to the diet of the jaguar, which means that the calm grazing group on the riverbank and the patient predator moving through the undergrowth nearby are participants in the same system, connected by exactly the kind of relationship neither one is aware of. Above both of them, the forest changes character. The canopy operates on different rules. Light arrives in fragments. Temperature and humidity shift within a few meters of vertical distance. Sound travels differently up here, further in some directions, absorbed completely in others. Animals that spend their lives in the canopy have adapted to it so specifically that many of them are essentially trapped by it, unable to function in the dense, darker world below. The toucan is one of the canopy's more conspicuous residents, which is interesting given how effectively it can disappear. The colors suggest visibility, bright, strongly contrasted, unlikely to be mistaken for anything else. But the canopy is a mosaic of light and shadow, and a toucan sitting still in the right part of a tree can be genuinely difficult to locate even when you know it's there. The colors may be less about concealment and more about communication, recognizing members of the same species quickly in a visually cluttered environment where brief glimpses are the norm. The bill, which tends to be the first thing anyone notices, is stranger than it looks. It appears heavy, almost burdensome, scaled too large for the rest of the bird. In reality, it weighs almost nothing. The interior is a lattice of thin, bony fibers surrounded by air, extremely light, moderately strong, and long enough to reach fruit on branches the toucan couldn't otherwise access without overbalancing. It can also be used to reach into nest cavities, to manipulate food, and apparently to regulate body temperature. The large surface area allows the bird to release heat when needed, a detail that took researchers some time to establish. Toucans eat a great deal of fruit. They also eat insects, small lizards, eggs, and occasionally the nestlings of other birds. A habit that makes them considerably less welcome in some parts of the canopy than their appearance might suggest. Their relationship with fruit, though, is the one that shapes the forest most durably. Seeds pass through them and are deposited elsewhere, sometimes far from the original tree. Across the canopy, across seasons, across years, this redistribution quietly influences which tree species establish where. The toucan is not doing anything other than feeding. The forest is doing the rest. They are not graceful flyers. This is worth stating plainly. The flight is functional rather than elegant, carried out in short bursts between trees with a kind of lurching momentum that reflects the bill's effect on aerodynamics. Toucans tend to travel in small groups, calling frequently, and their presence in a stretch of canopy is usually audible before it's visible. When they do appear, the movement has an improvised quality to it, as if the bird is solving the problem of getting from one tree to the next in real time. There is, genuinely, something enjoyable about watching them. The Amazon contains no shortage of animals that feel designed by necessity, lean, efficient, purpose-built. The toucan looks like it emerged from a slightly different process. Down on the forest floor, the logic shifts completely. The poison dart frog does not hide. In a place where concealment is the default, where insects match bark and snakes resemble dead wood, something this vivid stands out as almost a provocation. Tiny, slow-moving, and apparently unconcerned with the attention it draws, it moves across the leaf litter as though the usual rules don't apply to it. They don't. What predators learn, usually once and rarely twice, is that the color is a warning. The skin contains toxins potent enough to cause serious harm, and most animals that share this forest eventually develop a reliable aversion to anything that looks remotely similar. The frog's safety doesn't depend on speed or fighting back. It depends on reputation, on the accumulated experience of every predator in the surrounding forest. What makes this stranger is where the toxins actually come from. Poison dart frogs don't produce them independently. They acquire the compounds through diet, tiny ants, mites, and other small arthropods whose chemistry the frog's body stores rather than breaks down. Remove the frog from that ecosystem, change what it eats, and the toxicity fades within a generation. The poison belongs as much to the forest as to the animal carrying it. Day to day, the frog's life is considerably less dramatic than its appearance suggests. It searches for food in the damp leaf litter, defends a small patch of ground, and calls with a volume that seems impossible for something this size. Moisture matters as much as anything else. The skin must stay damp, and the difference between a suitable microhabitat and a lethal one can be a matter of meters. The parental care is where the animal becomes genuinely surprising. Eggs are guarded until they hatch. Then each tadpole is carried individually on a parent's back through dense vegetation to find water, not a pond or stream, but something far smaller. A pool caught inside a bromeliad, a hollow in the bark. Each tadpole placed in its own separate nursery. In some species, the mother returns repeatedly to each of these tiny pools, laying unfertilized eggs that serve as food for the growing tadpole. Navigating back to sites that may be invisible from more than a few centimeters away for weeks. For an animal that fits on a fingertip, it is a remarkable investment. And in a forest floor that looks abundant but is, for something this small, genuinely hazardous, it is also a necessary one. High above, the forest has a different mood entirely. The canopy holds its own kind of quiet, warmer, brighter, and slower than anything happening below. Up here, the urgency that defines so much of the Amazon simply doesn't reach everyone. The sloth has made a life out of that. It moves when it needs to, which isn't often, and rests when it doesn't, which is most of the time. This isn't carelessness. Leaves, which make up almost the entirety of its diet, offer very little in return for the effort of digesting them. The stomach can take several weeks to process a single meal, and the body's response to that constraint is to slow almost everything down. Metabolism, movement, temperature. The sloth doesn't burn what it doesn't have. What looks like passivity is, on closer inspection, a precisely calibrated relationship between what the forest provides and what the animal requires. Stillness, maintained long enough, also becomes protection. Predators that hunt by tracking movement find little to follow. The sloth can remain in one position for so long that its presence in a familiar tree becomes genuinely uncertain. The fur helps with this in a way that takes some getting used to. Microscopic grooves in each hair hold moisture, and in that moisture, algae quietly take hold, giving the coat a faint greenish tint that shifts with the light and the season. The sloth doesn't maintain this deliberately. It simply provides the conditions. Living in the fur alongside the algae are moths and beetles that complete entire life cycles without ever leaving. The sloth, in this sense, is not just a resident of the canopy, but a small habitat moving slowly through one. Once a week or so, it descends to the ground, the most exposed it will ever be. The reasons aren't fully understood. Depositing waste at the base of a specific tree may help fertilize it, and the descent likely connects to the moths in the fur, which use the occasion to lay their eggs. Possibly both explanations are true at once. What's clear is that the behavior is consistent enough across enough species that whatever drives it runs deeper than current research has confirmed. In a forest that rewards speed, venom, or strength, the sloth holds its place by asking less of the world than almost anything around it. It has been doing so in various forms for tens of millions of years. The rainforest is rarely silent. Even when nothing appears to be moving, sound fills the space between the trees. Insects beneath the leaves, water threading through hidden channels, birds calling from somewhere above. Most of these sounds travel only a short distance before the forest absorbs them. But there is one that doesn't. Long before the animal comes into view, the call arrives first. Low, resonant, rolling across the canopy in a way that seems to belong to something much larger than its source. Early explorers assumed they were hearing some unknown creature deeper in the forest. They were listening to a howler monkey. The anatomy behind it is worth understanding. A specialized bone in the throat, the hyoid, is enlarged in howler monkeys to a degree found in almost no other primate, forming a natural resonance chamber that transforms an ordinary call into something that can carry several kilometers through dense vegetation. The animal doesn't need to strain to produce it. The structure does the work. What the calls communicate is more layered than simple territory marking. Different groups announce their presence to one another across the canopy, and in doing so, they avoid direct confrontation more often than they cause it. A troop that knows where its neighbors are has less reason to move toward them. The sound, heard from a distance as something almost threatening, functions up close as a way of maintaining peace, a negotiation conducted in volume rather than violence. Conflict in the canopy carries real costs: falls, injuries, energy spent on chasing and retreating. The call replaces most of that with a few minutes of noise at dawn. Howler monkeys are leaf eaters, which shapes almost everything else about how they live. Leaves are reliably available throughout the year, which removes the pressure to travel widely in search of food. But they're also low in energy and take considerable effort to digest. The monkeys rest for long stretches, not because they have nothing to do, but because resting is part of how the diet works. Processing foliage slowly, conserving energy, moving deliberately between feeding trees. This is a lifestyle calibrated to what the food can actually provide. Watching a group of howlers spend most of an afternoon motionless in the upper canopy, it's easy to mistake economy for inactivity. Movement, when it happens, relies heavily on the tail. Howler monkeys have a prehensile tail capable of gripping branches independently, functioning almost as a fifth limb, anchoring the animal while it reaches, providing stability during longer transfers between trees, and allowing a kind of confidence in the canopy that wouldn't be possible otherwise. high above the forest floor, where a misplaced step carries serious consequences, that extra point of contact matters. Grooming runs through the group's daily life as a kind of social maintenance, reinforcing bonds, resolving small tensions, keeping the group's internal relationships functional. These are animals that depend on one another not just for warmth or protection, but for information. Which direction the group moves, when it stops, when something has changed in the forest nearby. All of this gets communicated through behavior that, from a distance, looks unremarkable. As they move, howler monkeys carry seeds through the canopy and deposit them across the forest below. Many of the trees growing in the Amazon today began as something that passed through an animal. The howler monkey, making its unhurried daily circuit between familiar trees, is quietly involved in determining what the forest will look like decades from now. The loudest animal in the Amazon turns out to be doing some of its most significant work in silence. The Amazon does not reveal itself easily. Every animal encountered here. The jaguar moving through shadow. The capybara reading the riverbank. The poison dart frog carrying its chemistry through the leaf litter. The sloth suspended somewhere between sleep and wakefulness. The howler monkey whose voice travels further than the eye can follow. Each of them is a partial answer to the same question. What does it take to survive in a place this complex, this layered, this alive? The answers, it turns out, are more varied than anyone expected. What stays with you, leaving a place like this, is not any single animal or moment. It's the sense of how much is happening at once, in how many directions, at how many scales simultaneously. A seed moving through a bird, water rising through a trunk and returning to the sky. A frog, smaller than a thumb, navigating back through dense vegetation to a pool of rainwater it somehow remembers. The forest doesn't pause. It doesn't simplify. It just continues. The same way it has for longer than most of what we consider history, driven by the same pressures, the same relationships, the same quiet negotiation between every living thing and the place it calls home. We were given a brief window into that world. What we found there was more than enough. The day is slowly coming to an end. Today, we stood beside the geothermal valleys of Yellowstone, crossed the open savanna, looked into the heart of the Amazon, watched the skies through the world of birds, and discovered entire worlds hidden beneath our feet. Every place felt different. Nature doesn't separate itself into places the way we do. The water that falls in one landscape continues its journey somewhere else. Seasons arrive one after another, without ever asking where one ecosystem ends and the next begins. Everything is connected, even when we can't see it. Maybe that's what makes exploring the natural world so special. No matter how far we travel, there is always another place waiting beyond the horizon, another morning beginning somewhere, another landscape continuing its story without anyone there to watch it. We've only seen a few small chapters. The rest is still out there, quietly changing with every sunrise, every passing season, and every day that comes to an end. Perhaps that's the most beautiful part of all, because beyond every horizon, nature's story is still being written. Rainforests, deserts, volcanic shores, and flooded rivers, reptiles have evolved into forms that barely seem real. Some vanish into bark and leaves. Others survive in salt water, glide between trees, or hunt beneath the cover of darkness. These are the reptiles that seem almost unreal, shaped by millions of years in some of the harshest and strangest environments on Earth. Bush viper, a rainforest snake. At first glance, the bush viper looks like something the forest designed to fool the eye. Each scale lifts and edges upward like a tiny leaf blade, catching light, scattering it, and breaking the body's outline. The effect is more than beautiful. It's practical camouflage. Atheris squamigera lives in the rainforests of Central and West Africa, where life stacks in layers: leaf litter, shrubs, low branches, and climbing vines. Unlike many snakes, bush vipers spend much of their time above the ground. Up here, the air is cooler, the view is filtered by foliage, and the pathways are narrow and three-dimensional. The body fits the job. Those rugged, strongly keeled scales give traction against wet bark and slick leaves. A prehensile tail serves as a quiet anchor, wrapping a twig while the head explores the next foothold. Movement is unhurried and deliberate. In a forest of ambushes, haste wastes energy. Coloration shifts dramatically across individuals and localities: emerald green, yellow, orange, even mottled mixes that echo moss and lichen. That variety isn't fashion, it's function. In filtered light, patterns and edges count more than bold shapes. The viper's skin turns the chaos of leaves into a hiding place. Bush vipers are mostly nocturnal. With night comes a cooler canopy and a surge of small animals on the move. Their pupils are vertical and sensitive. But unlike pit vipers of the Americas, these African vipers have no heat-sensing pits. They rely on careful vision and chemical cues, the steady rhythm of tongue flicks sampling tiny molecules from the air and leaf surfaces. Hunting is an exercise in patience. The snake waits along a narrow corridor where small lives pass, a branch leading to a fruiting shrub, a vine crossing above a damp path. When opportunity comes close, the strike is swift and precise. The venom is tailored for small vertebrates, disrupting blood and damaging tissue, so a captured frog, lizard, or small rodent is subdued quickly. A nestling bird, if found within reach, is also on the menu. The snake swallows headfirst, then settles back into stillness, letting digestion do its slow work. By day, a bush viper may coil on a low branch, body slightly flattened to blend with leaves. If discovered, it often trusts camouflage first. If pressed, it can inflate slightly and make short, forceful strikes. For people, a bite is medically important, but encounters are rare. This animal prefers quiet and distance over confrontation. These snakes give birth to live young rather than laying eggs. The timing often tracks seasonal rains, when prey is plentiful and humidity is forgiving. Newborns are miniature versions of the adult, already armed with the same textured scales, a ready grip of the tail, and the instinct to climb and hide. In the rainforest's economy, the bush viper is both hunter and hunted. It helps keep populations of small animals in balance, and in turn, may be taken by larger snakes or birds that patrol the trees. Its presence signals a layered, living forest where structure and shade create niches for specialists. Perhaps the most striking thing is how unreal it looks, yet how grounded each detail is in survival. The leaf-like scales, the colors that seem hand-painted, the patience that turns a branch into a blind. Nothing here is for show. It all pays rent in a world of margins. And if this serpent already challenges your idea of what a reptile can look like, the next one bends that idea even further, in its own strange way. Meet the gharial, Gavialis gangeticus, an ancient river specialist shaped by moving water. It lives where big rivers slow and spread, along sandy banks from northern India into Nepal and Bangladesh. At first glance, the animal looks improbable, a body built for water, and a snout so long and slender it seems drawn with a single stroke. That narrow rostrum is no ornament. It's a precision tool for catching fish. The slim profile slices through water with almost no resistance, while rows of fine, interlocking teeth create a living fish trap. When a shoal flashes past, the jaws sweep sideways with speed and very little splash. Prey is turned and swallowed head first, spines aligned, and the hunt ends in seconds. Along the snout and jaws sit tiny sensory pits that detect ripples, an extra sense for life in a turbid current. Eyes and nostrils ride high on the head, letting the animal breathe and watch while most of the body stays hidden. On land, it is awkward and low to the ground. In water, it's all economy and glide, tail doing most of the work. It's almost entirely a fish eater, and with those fine jaws, it poses little risk to people. Males develop a bulb at the tip of the snout, the gara, named after a clay pot. It's more than a look. The structure helps amplify buzzing calls and blows bubbles during the breeding season, signals that travel across broad channels. Females nest on high sandbanks as rivers drop, laying notably large eggs for their group, then guard the site. After hatching, youngsters often gather in nursery areas, hovering around a parent's presence like living driftwood. Gharials need deep channels, clean flow, and undisturbed banks, habitat that can vanish under dams, sand mining, and heavy netting. They're now critically endangered, surviving in fragmented stretches where conditions still resemble the old river. Yet, where sanctuaries protect banks and Head Start programs release young back into the wild, numbers have begun to edge upward. The species is a barometer of river health. If a gharial can thrive, so can the fish, the turtles, and the people who share the water. A face that seems unreal, perfectly real for its world. And in following this specialist, we're reminded how many shapes a river can sculpt, each one a different answer to the same moving water. From here, the current carries us to another design, equally unlikely, born of the same restless flow. If a crocodile shaped by rivers already feels improbable, the next reptile leaves the river behind entirely, entering a world of black volcanic rock, crashing surf, and cold ocean water. Along the black volcanic shores of the Galapagos lives a reptile that seems unreal until you watch it work. The marine iguana, Amblyrhynchus cristatus, is the only lizard that makes a living from the sea. Its dark body isn't for drama. It's a solar panel, tuned to absorb heat fast from cold, wind-polished rock. Everything about this animal is an answer to the coastline. A low, weighty body that hugs the ground in the wind, long claws that bite into wet stone, a tail flattened side to side, built more like an oar than a rudder. And over the snout, a set of nasal salt glands, tiny desalinators that let the iguana handle constant exposure to seawater. Feeding happens in the surge. They graze algae, not with a nibble but with a scrape. The snout is blunt, the teeth short and tricuspid, perfect for shearing mats of seaweed from rock. Big males often push farther, diving beyond 10 meters when conditions allow. Heart rate slows. Oxygen is rationed. Minutes later, the iguana surfaces colder and crusted with seawater, then climbs back into the heat to recharge. Salt is the constant cost of this lifestyle. Excess brine is forced out through those nasal glands in sudden, almost comical blasts. The spray dries into a pale frosting along the face. It's not a quirk, it's plumbing. Life on land follows its own rhythm. They crowd together to warm quickly, then spread out to avoid fights. Males defend small territories with head-bobbing displays, the language of status etched in posture and timing. In the breeding season, some populations flush with reds or greens, brief signals painted over charcoal skin. Nesting happens away from the surf in sandy or loose soils warmed by the equatorial sun. Females dig, lay a handful of eggs, and cover them carefully. The young that emerge months later meet a gauntlet of hazards, native hunters from air and shore, and on some islands introduced predators that never belonged here. As algae gardeners, marine iguanas shape the rocky shallows and shuttle nutrients between sea and land. In lean years, especially during strong El Niño events, food thins and they shed weight, feed in riskier intertidal zones, and ride out the change with a slower, thriftier metabolism. Toughness, here, is patience. A lizard that learned the tide and bent its body to the surf. From this coastline specialist, we drift onward to another reptile remade by an equally unlikely world. In Madagascar's cool, rain-soaked highland forests lives a reptile that can look almost imagined, the Parsons chameleon, Caluma parsoni. Heavy-bodied, with a tall casque and a skin of fine pebbled granules, it wears blues and greens that seem borrowed from the forest itself. For a chameleon, size changes the rules. This is among the largest of its kind, and that bulk encourages a different pace of life. Movement is deliberate, a measured sway that mirrors leaves in a breeze. The feet act like living clamps, 2 toes grouped against 3, while a prehensile tail anchors each decision before the body commits. The eyes feel otherworldly for good reason. Each turret swivels on its own, surveying almost every direction without moving the head. When something interesting appears, the eyes align, depth is fixed, and focus snaps into precision. Then comes the moment where slow meets sudden. A coiled system of elastic tissue in the tongue loads like a spring. With a release, the tongue fires, accelerating faster than muscle alone could manage. A soft, sticky tip spreads on contact, and an insect disappears back toward the waiting jaws. Most meals are arthropods, though a chameleon this large may occasionally take other small forest creatures. Color here isn't simple paint. Rather than mixing pigments, the skin shifts the spacing of tiny crystals that reflect light. That tuning changes the wavelengths we see, from muted forest tones to brighter signals. It's useful for temperature control, camouflage, and conversation, especially when neighbors test boundaries. A male can flatten his body, lift the casque, and intensify his hues to say, "This branch is taken." Life history only adds to the sense of the unreal. Females bury eggs that may take well over a year, sometimes closer to 2, to hatch, an extraordinary incubation for a reptile. The young emerge into a world where patience is an advantage, and growing slowly can mean living longer. All of this depends on humid montane rainforest, dense foliage, mossed branches, and stable shade. Where trees fall and edges dry, chameleons thin out. Protecting intact forest keeps this lineage of quiet specialists on the branches, doing the work of insect control and, frankly, reminding us what evolution can build. One reptile that bends light with crystals in its skin is surprising enough. The next has a different trick entirely, equally improbable, and just as real. In the warm nights of Southeast Asia, a sharp, echoing call carries through the trees. It's the namesake and signature of gecko, the tokay gecko, a reptile so boldly patterned it can feel almost unreal. From rainforest trunks to village walls, it thrives wherever there are crevices to hide in and insects to hunt. That striking skin isn't decoration. The blue-gray ground color scattered with orange spots breaks up the gecko's outline against lichen, bark, and shadow. Up close, the head looks oversized, with a muscular jaw and large lidless eyes. Those eyes are tuned for night, with vertical pupils that narrow by day and open wide after dark, drawing in the faintest light. Like other geckos, it cleans the eye's clear scale with a quick sweep of the tongue. Its climbing ability borders on science fiction, but is rooted in physics. Each toe is covered with millions of microscopic hairs that branch into even finer tips. These tips sit so close to the surface that weak molecular attractions, the van der Waals forces, create grip on glass-smooth walls as well as rough bark. The gecko peels its toes off in a rolling motion to let go, making the system both powerful and reversible. And it even sheds dust as it walks, so the pads keep working in messy, real-world conditions. Tokays are nocturnal hunters. They sit, wait, and then strike with surprising speed, swallowing crickets, roaches, moths, and whatever else fits. Larger individuals will take small lizards and occasionally tiny rodents. In towns and plantations, they station themselves near lamps where insects gather, turning human light into a buffet. A single gecko can remove a remarkable number of pests over the course of a night. The color that looks fluorescent under a flashlight serves a quieter purpose to the gecko itself. Against mottled bark and moonlit leaves, those orange speckles act like visual static, disrupting the body's edge so predators and prey hesitate that extra heartbeat. Camouflage by pattern, not by invisibility. Tokays are famously vocal and territorial. The repeated call advertises an occupied patch of trunk, wall, or rafters, and it's also a broadcast to potential mates. When threatened, they stand their ground, gape wide to show the bright mouth lining, and deliver a bite that can make even experienced hands think twice. If grabbed by the tail, they can shed it, a last resort distraction that eventually regrows. Reproduction is minimal and efficient. The female typically lays 1 or 2 hard-shelled eggs and cements them to a secure surface, like a hollow-in wood or a tucked-away beam. Adults often remain nearby, and the eggs develop for weeks to months, depending on temperature. Hatchlings emerge with working toe pads and a full set of instincts, ready to climb and hunt from their first night. Across rainforests, farms, and city edges, the tokay gecko is both predator and prey, eating insects in bulk and feeding snakes, birds, and small mammals in turn. It's a vivid reminder that evolution doesn't shy away from bold designs when they work. Neon spots, lidless eyes, and gravity-defying feet come together in a reptile that seems imagined, yet is perfectly at home in the dark. And even after centuries of studying reptiles, the list still feels unfinished. New species continue to appear in isolated forests, remote islands, and river systems that remain only lightly explored. Others have lived beside people for generations, yet still reveal behaviors, adaptations, and relationships we barely understood before. The deeper we look, the less static these animals seem. Evolution is still experimenting, and the world is still full of shapes, strategies, and lives waiting to be noticed. Nature is not divided by borders. Every environment, every creature, and every ecosystem is part of a much larger story. A story shaped by time, adaptation, and survival. And while some chapters unfold on land, others begin far beyond the horizon. The ocean covers more than 70% of Earth's surface and contains the largest habitable environment on the planet. Yet, much of it remains difficult to study, especially below the reach of sunlight, where pressure rises rapidly and conditions become increasingly extreme. This film follows a gradual descent through those environments, observing some of the species that inhabit the quieter regions of the ocean below. Along the temperate coast of southern Australia, kelp forests and seagrass meadows shift with the swell. In these calm, moving thickets lives a fish that prefers to be overlooked. The leafy sea dragon is built to disappear. Its body carries a fringe of leaf-like appendages that do nothing to push it forward. They are not paddles. They are a disguise, breaking up the outline of the animal so it reads as drifting weed. When the current lifts the kelp, the sea dragon lifts with it. When the kelp settles, it settles too. Matching motion is as important as matching color. In a place where everything sways, stillness would stand out. It is a relative of seahorses and pipefishes. Like them, it swims slowly, using a small fin on the neck and a transparent dorsal fin along the back. These fins tremble more than beat, keeping the body nearly motionless. Speed is limited. Stealth is not. Feeding suits this style. The sea dragon takes small crustaceans, mysid shrimp, copepods, and other planktonic prey. It uses a narrow snout as a pipette, creating a quick suction that pulls a meal in before it can dart away. No chase, no strike. Just a quiet sip, repeated many times. The Great Southern Reef gives it options. Kelp forests, seaweed beds, and ribbons of seagrass all offer cover and a constant drift of food. Most live in shallow water, from a few meters down to the dimmer edges of the reef. Clarity comes and goes with weather and tide, but the habitat remains a layered maze of stems, leaves, and shadow. Color helps. Individuals can be olive, yellow, or a muted brown, often with pale spots. With time, a sea dragon's hues may shift slightly to match the local weed. The effect is not quick, but it is effective. Breeding brings one of the ocean's rarer arrangements. The female produces a clutch of eggs, but the male carries them. She presses the eggs onto a spongy brood patch on the underside of his tail, where they lodge in small cups of tissue. From then on, he does the work. Over several weeks, he ventilates the eggs and controls the flow of water over them, supplying oxygen and carrying away waste. The eggs are a vivid pink or purple at first, fading as they near hatching. When each young sea dragon breaks free, it is fully formed and independent. There is no parental care beyond the brood. Juveniles head for shelter as soon as they can. Seagrass beds and filamentous algae act as nurseries, rich in small prey and hiding places. Many will not survive. Small fishes, crabs, and even an unexpected surge can take a toll. Those that do grow into their leaves and learn the rhythm of the reef, armor helps. Like other members of their family, sea dragons are sheathed in bony rings that make them stiff and unappealing to many predators. Their best defense remains invisibility, but the plating is a useful second line. Their days pass without haste. They travel little, usually staying within a familiar patch of reef. By grazing on swarms of small crustaceans, they help shift the energy of kelp forests into fish biomass. In healthy meadows, they are a sign of stability, clean water, structure, and time. That stability is not guaranteed. Storms can tear kelp from the reef. Heat waves can thin the forests, leaving bare rock. Coastal development, runoff, and anchors fragment seagrass. With a limited range and slow movement, sea dragons cannot simply move on. Many regions now protect them by law, and local groups monitor their numbers, site by site. Even hidden species leave traces of their presence. A flash of pink eggs on a tail in spring, a ripple where a fin is almost too small to see. The faint outline of leaves that are not leaves at all. For the leafy sea dragon, survival is about not being noticed. In a crowded reef, it has found room by becoming part of the background. From these sunlit shallows, the coastline steps down into cooler, darker water. The shapes grow stranger, the light more scarce. Another creature waits there, concealed for different reasons. In the blue hush of a reef slope, a lionfish holds its place in the water. It barely swims, it simply balances, fins extended, letting the sea move around it. Native to the Indo-Pacific and the Red Sea, also taken root across the Caribbean and the Western Atlantic. Here and there, from lagoons to rocky crevices and down along deeper reef ledges, it follows the same quiet routine. The stripes are not decoration. Pale and dark bands break up the outline of the body, blending with coral branches and moving shadow. The long pectoral fins widen its profile, a soft screen that looks larger than the fish itself. The message is mixed, hard to see, but not to be touched. Those spines carry venom. Dorsal, pelvic, and anal spines are wrapped with tissue that delivers a painful dose when pressed. They are for defense, not attack. Most large predators learn quickly and keep their distance. The lionfish is built for stillness. It stabilizes with tiny flicks of the fins and rises or sinks with a slow breath. Speed is rare. When it comes, it is brief. Hunting begins in low light. Many small fishes and shrimps are out, distracted by feeding or seeking cover. The lionfish angles its fins into a semicircle and eases a target toward a wall or a pocket in the reef. At the last moment, it flares the fins wider and takes a single, powerful gulp. Sometimes, it even blows a short jet of water first, turning the prey to face the strike. It feeds on opportunity. Juvenile reef fishes, small wrasses, gobies, crustaceans. The meals are small but frequent. A patient method suits a place where energy is hard-earned. Reproduction happens near dusk. A female releases buoyant egg masses. A male fertilizes them in open water. The eggs rise, then drift with the current. For days to weeks, the larvae stay pelagic, feeding and growing far from the reef that produced them. This is how lionfish spread, quietly and efficiently, from reef to reef. In their native range, predators, parasites, and wary prey hold them in balance. In the Atlantic and Caribbean, where they are newcomers, that balance is missing. Juvenile fishes that have never met a hunter like this are easy targets. Over time, heavy predation can thin the next generation of many species. On some reefs, the change is visible in the shallows and along the slope. Down around the deeper ledges, the light is cooler and the colors shift. Red drains away, and the bright bands of a lionfish soften to gray and brown. The fish makes use of the terrain, overhangs, spurs, and narrow cuts where a spreading fin can block escape. Large eyes help in dim water. So does a body plan made for hovering in place, unhurried and exact. Even a still lionfish communicates. The long filaments trailing from its fins, the slow pulse of its gills, the rigid set of its spines, each is information to anything nearby. Approach with care. Keep your distance. Invasive or native, it remains the same animal. A cautious, opportunistic hunter tuned to structure, shadow, and timing. As the reef falls away, the slope steepens into darker water. The last coral outcrops thin into open blue, and the busy shallows fade behind. Below, the ocean slows. Light softens, color drains away, and other forms begin to emerge from the dark. We move deeper. Far below the sunlit surface, the water turns quiet and cold. In this mid-water darkness, slow travelers drift with the pull of the ocean. Comb jellies. They come in many forms. Some are nearly spherical. Others trail long ribbons or spread delicate, transparent lobes into the water. A few pulse with shifting rainbows, while others are almost invisible until the light catches them at the right angle. Different shapes, built for different layers of the drifting sea. Eight rows of tiny cilia beat in perfect waves along their bodies. These combs don't push hard. They whisper through the water. When even a hint of light finds them, the moving rows scatter it into sliding rainbows. The colors are not the animal's own glow, but light itself, bent and broken by motion. Often mistaken for true jellies, comb jellies belong to their own ancient lineage. They do not sting. Instead, many carry two fine tentacles lined with colloblasts, adhesive cells that cling to passing plankton. Others spread soft lobes like drifting nets. A copepod brushes too close and is quietly pulled inward. Here, where daylight fades to nothing, many comb jellies produce their own light. Blue-green flashes ripple across their bodies, sudden signals that may confuse or startle predators. Some even release glowing material into the water itself, creating a brief distraction before disappearing back into the dark. They feed on the drifting life around them: copepods, fish larvae, even smaller comb jellies. In times of abundance, their numbers can rise quickly. Most are simultaneous hermaphrodites, releasing eggs and sperm directly into the water. Some species can even fertilize their own eggs when no mate is nearby. The body is almost entirely water, close to neutrally buoyant. Movement costs little energy. By adjusting the rhythm of their comb rows, they steer, rise, or sink with delicate control, conserving strength in a place where food arrives slowly. Predators move through these same dark layers: larger fish, siphonophores, and even other comb jellies. Fragile as they seem, many can regenerate damaged tissue, repairing themselves after encounters in the open sea. From the dim mesopelagic down toward the midnight zones, they drift in enormous numbers, though most will never be seen by human eyes. Quiet currents carry them through the deep, shaping the movement of plankton one small capture at a time. In a realm ruled by darkness, they rely on transparency, motion, and light. And farther below, other forms of life wait in the cold water beyond. Along the deep ocean floor, sea cucumbers move slowly through the dark, some live hundreds of meters below the surface, while others inhabit the abyssal plains several kilometers down, where sunlight never reaches. They feed on what falls from above: drifting organic particles, dead plankton, and marine snow settling into the sediment. As they move, they recycle nutrients back into the ecosystem, quietly reshaping the seafloor grain by grain. Most are soft-bodied and nearly defenseless. In the deeper layers of the ocean, jellyfish drift through darkness that sunlight never reaches. Some remain near the surface at night and sink again by day, while others spend their entire lives hundreds or even thousands of meters below. There is no single form for a jellyfish here. Some trail long glowing tentacles through open water. Others pulse slowly like transparent bells, almost invisible except for the light moving across their bodies. Many deep-sea jellyfish create their own bioluminescence, soft flashes of blue or violet light produced through chemical reactions inside the body. These signals may confuse predators, attract prey, or help individuals recognize movement in the dark. Their bodies are simple, made mostly of water, yet jellyfish have survived in Earth's oceans for hundreds of millions of years. In the silent mid-water, they remain among the most common drifting hunters of the deep. In darker water, Octopuses move with a different kind of precision. Some remain close to the seafloor, sheltering among rocks and narrow crevices, while others drift through open water where little light remains. Their bodies are soft and flexible, able to pass through gaps barely larger than their eyes. Sensitive arms explore the surroundings through touch as much as sight, gathering information from every surface they cross. In these colder layers of the ocean, where movement costs energy and encounters are rare, patience and intelligence become powerful tools for survival. Even now, much of the deep ocean remains beyond direct human observation. Pressure rises to crushing levels, sunlight disappears, and exploration becomes slow, expensive, and technically difficult. Vast regions of the sea floor have never been carefully mapped, and many animals are still known only from brief encounters in the dark. With each descent, the ocean reveals life adapted to conditions once thought impossible, quiet worlds continuing far below the reach of ordinary light. In these same dark waters, squid spend much of their lives in constant motion. Some travel vertically through the ocean each day, rising toward shallower water at night to feed before descending again into the depths before sunrise. Across the open ocean, these migrations move enormous amounts of biomass through the water column, linking the deep sea to the world above. Their bodies are built for rapid escape. Water pulled into the mantle can be forced out in a sudden jet, driving the animal backward with surprising speed. Many species also carry chromatophores across the skin, tiny pigment cells that expand and contract in moments, changing the body's appearance almost instantly. In the darkness of the deeper ocean, movement, timing, and sudden invisibility often matter more than size or strength. Below the drifting layers of plankton and faint bioluminescence, the ocean grows quieter still. Pressure rises, temperatures fall, and the darkness becomes nearly complete. In these depths, many animals remain rarely seen, known only from brief encounters in the black water. Among them is the barrel-eye fish, a small deep-sea species adapted to life far below the reach of sunlight. Its most unusual feature is a transparent, fluid-filled dome covering the top of the head. Inside that shield sit two sensitive eyes, capable of rotating to track movement in the water above. For years, scientists misunderstood the animal's appearance because damaged specimens lost the delicate, transparent layer before reaching the surface. The barrel eye spends much of its time nearly motionless in the water column. Conserving energy in an environment where food can be scarce. Its tubular eyes are usually directed upward, watching for the silhouettes of small drifting animals against the faint traces of light from above. When prey approaches, the eyes can rotate forward, helping the fish feed with surprising precision in near total darkness. Life at these depths demands extreme specialization. Soft bodies, slow movement, sensitive vision, and bioluminescent signals become more useful than speed or strength. Creatures like the barreli reveal how differently life can evolve when shaped by pressure, darkness, and isolation over millions of years. Yet even now, the deeper ocean remains only partially explored. Beneath these cold layers, other forms of life continue to drift unseen through the darkness, strange, delicate, and still largely unknown to science. The ocean covers most of our planet, yet much of it remains difficult to reach and even harder to study. Pressure, darkness, and distance continue to hide vast regions beneath the surface, where life moves beyond ordinary view. With each new expedition, cameras descend a little farther, revealing creatures and behaviors once completely unknown. And somewhere in that immense darkness, countless forms of life are still waiting for the world to see them for the first time. The natural world is often defined by scale, vast oceans, endless landscapes, and creatures large enough to dominate entire ecosystems. Yet some of nature's greatest achievements can be found in places we rarely notice. Hidden beneath our feet, another world exists, smaller in size, but no less remarkable. Inside trees and deep below the soil, another world is always moving. Cities rise without blueprints, armies march without commanders. Millions of lives connect through instinct, scent, and constant motion. Some build, some hunt, some defend with pain, powerful enough to stop predators many times their size. Hidden almost everywhere on Earth, ants have turned cooperation into survival. In the humid forests of the Americas, traffic never stops. A line forms, bends, and holds together. Each ant carrying a fragment of green that is larger than itself. The colony moves with the steadiness of a slow river. These are leafcutter ants. They are farmers. The leaves are not a meal, but fuel for a crop. In chambers below, they feed a cultivated fungus, and in return, it produces tiny nutrient-rich bodies that nourish the colony. Adults sip plant juices and fungus-derived fluids. The larvae receive the solid food. The system is shared and efficient. Together, they sustain a system of farming, transport, cleaning, and care. Millions of tiny decisions, repeated without pause, keep the colony alive. What emerges is more than a swarm of insects. It is a functioning society built beneath the forest floor. Division of labor runs through every step. Small workers ride the leaf fragments, tending them and defending the carrier from parasitic flies that hover in the forest air. Mid-sized workers cut and transport. Larger ants patrol and keep the paths clear. Each caste has a shape and a job, tuned by evolution to the work at hand. The tools are simple and precise. Strong mandibles slice through tough veins. While cutting, some workers vibrate their bodies. This stridulation makes the blade bite more easily and may help coordinate nearby workers. Over time, their effort etches long-lasting highways through the undergrowth. guided by chemical trails that fade and are refreshed as the flow of ants changes. Underground, the scale becomes clear. A mature nest can spread over many meters and sink deep into the soil. Hundreds of chambers hold gardens arranged for airflow and moisture. Shafts act as vents. Warm, humid air drifts up. Cooler air sinks. The colony steers this invisible weather to keep the fungus at a stable temperature and humidity. Hygiene is constant work. The gardens are kept clean. Cut leaves are chewed and washed before planting. Refuse is carried to dedicated dumps, often at the nest margins, and some workers specialize in handling this waste and little else. On their bodies live actinomycete bacteria that produce antibiotics. These help keep a parasitic fungus, Escovopsis, from overrunning the crop. The ants groom one another, spreading protection through the colony. Foraging is careful rather than random. Scouts test new plants and bring back small samples. If the fungus responds well, recruitment increases. If it declines, the ants change course. In this way, the garden gives feedback to the workers that feed it. The farm and the farmers act together. The queen sits at the center of this system. After the first heavy rains, winged males and future queens take to the air. A young queen mates once, then carries a tiny pellet of her ancestral fungus in her mouth to start a new garden underground. She can store sperm for years, raising a first generation of small workers from the energy of her own reserves. From a quiet chamber, a city grows. Their impact on the forest is broad. These ants are among the dominant herbivores here. They remove a steady share of fresh leaves day after day. In doing so, they prune trees and shrubs, open small gaps for light, and feed countless decomposers with their waste piles. The earth they move and mix changes how water runs off, how roots spread, and how nutrients cycle. Even the roads they build shape the community around them. Trails become corridors for seeds, spores, and other insects. Predators learn the schedule, so do parasites. The colony adjusts. Traffic thickens in the cool of morning and evening, and slows in heavy rain, when wet leaves are less manageable and the risk of contamination rises. Efficiency emerges from simple rules. Workers follow pheromone cues and self-organize into lanes that reduce collisions. They choose leaf pieces that balance weight and speed. Nothing is overseen by a single mind, yet the result is ordered. The colony behaves like a single organism with many hands. Here, industry is quiet and continuous. The forest gives, and the ants return it in another form. The cycle turns beneath our feet, mostly unseen. Across the world, ant colonies are built on the same idea. No individual survives alone for long. The colony functions as a system, and every ant inside it carries part of the work. At the center is the queen. In most species, she is the colony's only permanent source of new workers. Early in her life, she leaves the nest during a brief mating flight, mates once, and stores enough sperm to produce offspring for years. Some queens may live for decades underground, rarely seeing the outside world again. Around her gather the workers. Most are female, but unlike the queen, they do not reproduce. Their bodies and behavior are shaped for labor. Some forage beyond the nest, following scent trails through soil, roots, and vegetation. Others remain below ground, tending larvae, cleaning chambers, feeding nestmates, or repairing tunnels after rain and collapse. In many species, workers are not all the same size. Small workers move through narrow chambers and care for brood. Larger workers carry food, excavate soil, or defend important entrances. In some ants, massive soldiers develop oversized heads and powerful mandibles specialized for combat. Each caste performs a different role, yet no ant oversees the others. Coordination emerges through constant interaction. Communication is mostly chemical. As ants move, they leave pheromone trails behind them. A successful path to food becomes reinforced with every passing worker. Danger creates a different signal. Alarm pheromones can spread through a colony in seconds, changing the behavior of thousands of ants almost instantly. Touch also matters. Ants tap antennae against one another to exchange information and recognize members of their own colony. Food and chemical cues pass mouth to mouth in a process called trophallaxis, allowing nutrients and signals to circulate together through the nest. Inside the colony, work never fully stops. Eggs become larvae. Larvae become pupae. New workers emerge pale and soft before their exoskeleton hardens. Older workers often take greater risks outside the nest, while younger ants remain deeper underground where conditions are more stable. To the outside world, a colony may appear chaotic. But beneath the movement lies a simple structure repeated across thousands of species: reproduction, labor, defense, communication, and care. From deserts to rainforests, ants have adapted these same foundations into radically different societies. Some build underground farms, some wage raids across the forest floor. Others stitch leaves into nests suspended high above the ground. The rules remain familiar. The outcomes do not. Yet the world of ants extends far beyond a single colony. Some species evolved powerful weapons, others strange bodies or unusual ways of surviving. Pushing the limits of what an ant can become, bullet ants are among the largest ants in the rainforest, but their reputation comes from something else entirely. Hidden beneath the dark body and slow movement is one of the most painful stings in the insect world. When threatened, the ant drives a stinger into the skin and releases a powerful venom called puneratoxin. The pain arrives almost instantly, sharp, electric, and deeply intense. Victims often describe it as burning waves that spread through the entire limb. Unlike many insect stings that fade quickly, the effects of a bullet ant can last for hours, sometimes even an entire day. The body reacts violently. Muscles may twitch uncontrollably. Sweating, shaking, nausea, and temporary paralysis can follow. For small animals, the venom can be overwhelming. For the colony, it is an effective defense that few predators choose to challenge twice. In the rainforests of Central and South America, that painful warning allows these ants to move through the undergrowth with surprisingly little interference. You have already seen the farmers of the forest floor cutting leaves to feed the fungus beneath their nests. But elsewhere in the rainforest, another kind of ant uses those same leaves very differently. Weaver ants do not cut leaves apart. They pull them together. High in the trees, workers gather along the edges of living leaves and lock themselves into chains. Slowly, the gaps close. Other ants arrive carrying larvae in their jaws. The larvae produce silk, and the workers use it like thread, stitching the leaves into a sealed nest suspended above the forest floor. Entire colonies spread through the canopy this way, hidden among branches and sunlight. Trails connect tree to tree overhead, forming an aerial network that moves with the wind itself. Where leafcutters build below the ground, weaver ants build above it, turning the forest canopy into living architecture. More than 14,000 species of ants are known to science, and many more likely remain undiscovered beneath forests, deserts, and canopies across the planet. Together, their numbers are almost impossible to imagine. At any given moment, quadrillions of ants move through the world, carrying, building, defending, farming, hunting. No single ant understands the colony around it, but together they create structures far larger than themselves. Across the natural world, survival takes many forms. Some species thrive through cooperation, building vast societies hidden beneath the ground. Others must endure forces far greater than themselves. In places where winter can last for months and temperatures fall far below freezing, life faces an entirely different challenge. For many people, Siberia is little more than a name on a map, a place associated with endless snow, extreme cold, and distances so vast they are difficult to imagine. But beyond that image lies one of the largest wilderness regions on Earth. Here, wolves travel across frozen forests. Bears emerge from long winters. Predators move unseen through the taiga, while life continues across landscapes shaped by ice, rivers, and time itself. This is a world few people will ever experience firsthand. Yet, it remains one of the last places where nature still dominates nearly everything around it. Winter here is not a season, it is the ground rule. Across the taiga and open plains of Siberia, gray wolves move through the cold with quiet efficiency. Nothing about them is excessive. Every part of the animal is shaped by distance, weather, and the constant need to conserve energy. Their coat does most of the work. Long guard hairs shed snow and wind, while a dense underlayer traps heat close to the body. Frost gathers along the muzzle and whiskers, then disappears with each breath. When a wolf lies down to rest, the tail curls over the nose, holding warmth against the face. The feet are broad and furred, spreading weight across soft snow. Heat exchange in the legs helps reduce energy loss, keeping the core warm even during long travel through frozen terrain. In temperatures that stop most movement, wolves continue at a steady pace. They rarely waste energy. Most of their movement happens at a trot, an economical rhythm that can be maintained for hours. Packs may cover dozens of kilometers in a single night, following frozen rivers, forest edges, and ridge lines where travel is easier. Often they move in single file, each animal stepping into the tracks of the one ahead. For long stretches, the forest remains quiet except for the sound of snow compressing beneath their feet. The pack itself is usually a family group. A breeding pair leads alongside younger wolves from previous years and the current season's pups. Social bonds are reinforced constantly through posture, touch, eye contact, and greeting rituals that reduce conflict inside the group. At night, howls travel across the taiga and through open valleys. Some calls help reunite scattered members. Others serve as warnings to neighboring packs. In a landscape this large, sound carries farther than sight. Territory here can span hundreds of square kilometers. Prey animals move with the seasons, and wolves move with them. Scent marks left along game trails, ridges, and prominent trees quietly define the boundaries between packs, reducing dangerous encounters over food and space. Hunting is usually patient rather than violent. Wolves spend far more time observing than chasing. Herds are tested carefully. A slight limp, slower reactions, hesitation in deep snow. Small details matter. In winter, conditions can briefly shift the advantage toward the wolves. Wide paws carry them across crusted snow, while heavier animals break through the surface. Once the pack commits to a chase, pressure builds slowly. Exhaustion becomes part of the hunt. Then, suddenly, it ends. The wolves feed quickly in the cold. Larger kills may sustain the pack for several days if other scavengers do not arrive first. When food is plentiful, meat is sometimes buried beneath snow where the frozen ground preserves it naturally. Nothing remains unused for long in the taiga. Ravens often appear within minutes of a kill, watching from nearby branches before descending. Foxes circle the edges cautiously. Wolverines may drive even wolves away if an opportunity presents itself. What is left behind feeds insects, microbes, and eventually the soil beneath the forest. By spring, the rhythm of the pack changes. After roughly 2 months of gestation, pups are born inside sheltered dens dug into riverbanks or hidden beneath roots and fallen trees. Blind and completely dependent, they remain underground during the first weeks of life while adults rotate between guarding and hunting. As the snow begins to soften, the forest grows louder. Meltwater returns to the rivers. Birds reappear in the canopy. Wolves shed much of their winter coat and travel through terrain that changes almost daily as ice breaks apart and exposed ground returns. Young wolves spend much of this period playing. What appears simple is also preparation, balance, coordination, social rank, and restraint are all practiced through constant interaction. Older siblings often remain near the pups while the adults hunt. Summer in Siberia is brief. Insects fill the air, marshlands open. Ungulates spread across wider feeding grounds. And wolves adapt by traveling farther or shifting towards smaller prey when necessary. Then the cold begins returning again. By autumn, the pack's coat thickens once more. Fat reserves build slowly. Movement patterns lengthen across the landscape as rivers freeze and snow settles back over the forest floor. Some younger wolves eventually leave the pack entirely. Alone, they cross enormous distances, searching for territory, food, or another wolf willing to travel beside them. Most will not survive long. Out here, survival rarely depends on strength alone. Endurance matters more. Patience matters more. The wolves shape the movement of prey animals, influence where herds feed, and leave behind opportunities for scavengers and smaller predators throughout the ecosystem. But the animals themselves are not often seen for long. Usually their presence is recorded in smaller ways. Tracks crossing a frozen stream, disturbed snow beneath dark trees, or a distant chorus fading somewhere deeper in the taiga. And beyond those forests, other animals move through the same cold, answering to the same long winter in different ways. But before following the next animal, it is worth pausing for a moment to look at the land itself. Because Siberia is larger than any single species moving through its forests, it stretches across immense distances, through frozen taiga, open marshlands, mountain valleys, and northern rivers that remain locked beneath ice for much of the year. Seasons move slowly here. Winter settles deep into the ground, and even spring arrives carefully, one thawing river at a time. At the center of this landscape lies Lake Baikal. Older than the forests around it, Baikal is the deepest freshwater lake on Earth. During winter, its surface freezes into vast sheets of transparent ice shaped by pressure, wind, and shifting temperatures. Some sections remain silent for months. Others crack suddenly with sounds that travel across the frozen lake like distant thunder. Even beneath the ice, life continues. Cold currents move through the dark water below, supporting species found nowhere else on Earth. Along the shoreline, the taiga presses against the lake itself. Pine forests, frozen cliffs, and valleys buried beneath snow for much of the year. Far beyond Baikal, the forests continue northward into harsher and more isolated regions where winters grow longer and the distances between living things become even greater. In some places, rivers freeze solid. In others, snow covers the ground for nearly half the year. Even here, animals continue adapting to the cold in different ways. And deeper within the forest, another predator moves almost entirely unseen. Unlike wolves, black bears spend most of their lives alone. In the forests of eastern Siberia, they move slowly and with little urgency, following food rather than territory. Their movements shift constantly with the season. In spring, they emerge from winter dens lean and weakened after months inside sheltered hollows beneath roots, rocks, or deep snow. At first, food remains difficult to find. The forest is still cold, rivers are only beginning to thaw, and much of the landscape remains buried beneath snow. As temperatures rise, black bears begin feeding almost constantly, searching through riverbanks, fallen logs, and dense undergrowth for anything rich in energy. Most of their diet comes from plants and insects. Berries, roots, nuts, and larvae provide much of the nutrition needed to rebuild fat reserves after winter. Powerful claws allow them to tear apart rotting wood in search of insects hidden beneath the surface. Fish, carrion, and smaller animals are also taken when the opportunity appears. Despite their size, black bears are skilled climbers. Younger bears often spend long periods above the ground, resting or feeding among thick branches deep within the forest canopy. Even adults can climb surprisingly well when necessary, especially in steep and heavily wooded terrain. By late summer, feeding becomes more urgent. Another Siberian winter is approaching. Fat reserves built during the warmer months may determine whether the animal survives the cold season ahead. As temperatures begin falling again, their movements gradually slow and the forests grow quiet once more. Brown bears rarely remain still for long. Across Siberia, they move through the landscape with a level of freedom few other animals can match. Rivers, forests, mountain slopes, and open valleys may all become part of a single territory. Some individuals travel enormous distances over the course of a year, crossing terrain that changes constantly with the season. Despite their size, much of their behavior is cautious rather than aggressive. A brown bear may spend hours investigating a single smell carried through the wind or standing silently at the edge of a forest, listening for movement deeper in the trees. Their senses are highly developed, especially smell, which allows them to detect food from remarkable distances. Older bears often carry visible scars gathered over years of competition, harsh winters, and occasional fights with rivals. Yet direct conflict is usually avoided whenever possible. Most movement through the forest happens quietly. During warmer months, rivers become important pathways through the landscape. Bears follow them through dense forest, across rocky shorelines, and into remote valleys where fewer animals are able to travel easily. In isolated parts of Siberia, some may live for years with almost no contact with humans at all. Even then, the forest is never entirely empty. Broken ground, overturned stones, and deep prints pressed into wet earth reveal how much activity remains hidden within the wilderness long after the animal itself has disappeared. Far north of the Siberian forests, beyond the taiga and the last river valleys, the landscape opens into the Arctic coast. Here, along the frozen shores of the Kara and Chukchi seas, polar bears move across drifting sea ice for much of the year. Unlike brown bears, they depend almost entirely on the Arctic itself. Sea ice is not simply part of their environment. It is the platform from which they hunt, travel, rest, and survive. Most of their prey comes from seals. Using an extraordinary sense of smell, polar bears are able to detect breathing holes hidden beneath snow and ice from remarkable distances. In some conditions, they may wait motionless for hours beside a single opening in the frozen surface, conserving energy in one of the harshest climates on Earth. In some Arctic regions, researchers place tracking collars on polar bears to better understand how shifting sea ice is changing their movements, hunting patterns, and survival across the far north. If a seal is successfully caught, the energy gained can sustain a polar bear for days. Blubber is especially important. Rich in fat and calories, it provides the dense energy needed to survive long periods of movement across sea ice, where hunting opportunities remain unpredictable. Despite the extreme cold, polar bears are also powerful swimmers. Some individuals travel for hours through near-freezing Arctic water, moving between drifting sections of sea ice. Thick layers of body fat, dense fur, and dark skin beneath the coat help reduce heat loss in temperatures that can fall below -40 degrees Celsius. Even their paws are adapted for the environment, distributing weight across unstable ice while providing traction against frozen surfaces and strong currents beneath the Arctic Sea. Even in Siberia's Arctic regions, encounters with polar bears remain rare. The distances are immense, the weather severe, and much of their movement happens across shifting ice far from human settlements. Yet they remain among the most powerful predators of the Northern Hemisphere, perfectly adapted to a world shaped almost entirely by cold. Far beyond the Arctic coast and the frozen sea ice, the forests return once again. And hidden within those forests lives a predator many people still associate with warmer climates: Yet the Siberian tiger survives here among snow-covered valleys, frozen rivers, and temperatures capable of killing most animals exposed for too long. It is the largest wild cat on Earth. Long-bodied and powerfully built, the tiger moves through the taiga with a level of control that often makes it seem almost unreal. The coat is thicker and paler than that of tigers farther south, adapted for the cold forests of the Russian Far East. Dense fur protects the body through winter storms, while wide paws distribute weight across deep snow and unstable ground. Today, only a few hundred Siberian tigers remain in the wild, most living within the forests of eastern Russia near the Amur River basin, with smaller populations extending into northeastern China. Even across these enormous territories, encounters between them remain uncommon. Unlike wolves, they do not survive through cooperation. Like many other animals adapted to Siberia, the tiger travels enormous distances across forests, frozen river valleys, and mountain terrain throughout the year. The tiger hunts through patience rather than prolonged pursuit. Using cover and wind direction carefully, it closes distance slowly before launching a short and explosive attack. Wild boar and deer make up most of its prey, and a successful hunt can provide enough food for several days during the harsh winter months. Despite its size, the Siberian tiger is capable of moving with remarkable silence. Thick muscles power the body through snow and uneven terrain, but much of its success depends on timing rather than strength alone. In these forests, wasted energy can become dangerous very quickly. Winters here are long, but the tiger remains active throughout all of it. Frost gathers across the whiskers. Snow settles along its back. A century ago, the Siberian tiger came dangerously close to disappearing entirely. Hunting and habitat loss reduced the population to only a small number of surviving animals. Protection efforts in Russia later allowed the species to recover slowly, though it still remains vulnerable to poaching, shrinking habitat, and the growing fragmentation of wilderness across the region. Even now, most people living within these forests may never see one directly. The Siberian tiger may be the largest of the wild cats, but another predator quietly shares these forests and deserves just as much attention. The Eurasian lynx is smaller, lighter, and far more difficult to find. While many predators rely on strength or endurance, the lynx survives through something else entirely, remaining unnoticed. Its spotted coat breaks apart the outline of the body among branches, shadows, and patches of snow. Even in open forest, a lynx can disappear surprisingly quickly, becoming almost impossible to distinguish from its surroundings. One of its most recognizable features is found at the tips of the ears. Long black tufts rise above the head, giving the animal a distinctive silhouette unlike any other wild cat in the region. Scientists still debate their exact function, though they may help improve the detection of sound or visual communication between individuals. The lynx also possesses unusually large paws relative to its body size. Its eyesight is exceptionally sharp. A lynx can detect small movements at remarkable distances, often noticing potential prey long before the prey becomes aware of any danger. Lynx rarely depend on cooperation. Unlike tigers, they do not dominate vast territories through size alone. Much of their success comes from patience, careful observation, and an ability to remain hidden for long periods of time. Many people travel through these forests without ever realizing one may have been watching from nearby. In a landscape filled with larger and more powerful animals, the Eurasian lynx has survived by mastering something far more subtle: the ability to exist almost entirely unseen. While predators often dominate attention, some of the largest animals in Siberia rarely hunt at all. The moose is the largest member of the deer family. Capable of standing over 2 meters tall at the shoulder. Despite its size, it spends much of its life feeding on shrubs, young trees, and aquatic vegetation found throughout the northern forests. Unlike most animals in Siberia, moose are surprisingly comfortable in water. Strong swimmers, they can cross wide rivers and lakes with ease, sometimes traveling several kilometers without stopping. During warmer months, they are even known to dive beneath the surface in search of aquatic plants, feeding in places where few other large mammals can reach. High above the forest floor, another hunter relies on an entirely different strategy. The great gray owl possesses exceptional hearing capable of detecting small animals beneath deep snow. Even when prey remains completely hidden, the owl can locate movement and strike with remarkable precision. The mountain hare is one of the animals most closely associated with Siberia's long winters. As snow begins to cover the landscape, its coat gradually changes from brown to white, providing effective camouflage against predators throughout the cold season. Thick fur extends across the feet, helping the hare move across snow while insulating it from frozen ground. For much of winter, remaining unseen becomes its most important defense. Red foxes are among the most adaptable animals in Siberia. They occupy forests, open plains, river valleys, and even regions close to human settlements. Their hearing is so sensitive that they can detect small animals moving beneath the snow without ever seeing them. During winter, a fox may suddenly leap high into the air before diving headfirst into the snow, a hunting technique that allows it to locate prey hidden entirely below the surface. The reindeer is one of the few deer species in which both males and females grow antlers. These antlers are shed at different times of the year, creating seasonal advantages depending on age and sex. Broad hooves allow reindeer to travel efficiently across snow, ice, and wetlands, while also helping them dig through frozen surfaces in search of lichen. One of the few food sources that remains available throughout the Arctic winter. The Siberian roe deer is one of the most widespread deer species found across the forests and grasslands of northern Asia. Smaller than many other members of the deer family, it relies on agility rather than size when danger appears. Roe deer are capable of sudden bursts of speed and remarkably high leaps, allowing them to move quickly through dense vegetation and uneven terrain. Despite living alongside some of Siberia's largest predators, they remain one of the region's most successful herbivores. Across Siberia, life continues in countless forms, from the frozen Arctic coast to the forests that stretch beyond the horizon. Some animals are seen often. Others remain hidden for years at a time. Yet each occupies its own place within a landscape shaped by cold, distance, and time. For much of the world, Siberia is often imagined as a land of snow and isolation. But beyond that image exists one of the largest and most complex wilderness regions on Earth. Rivers travel for thousands of kilometers. Forests cover vast portions of the continent. Entire ecosystems continue largely unchanged across areas so remote that few people will ever visit them. What makes this region remarkable is not any single species, mountain range, or river. It is the scale of the wilderness itself. Across immense distances, forests merge into wetlands, valleys open into grasslands, and rivers connect landscapes that may seem completely separate. Together, they form an environment capable of supporting an extraordinary diversity of life, despite some of the harshest conditions found anywhere on the planet. The seasons here shape everything. Winter arrives early and lingers for months. Ice forms across lakes and rivers. Snow settles across the forests. Then, slowly, the landscape changes once again. Water returns. Migrating animals move across enormous distances. New generations emerge. The cycle continues, as it has for thousands of years. Places such as Lake Baikal remind us how much of the natural world still exists beyond cities, roads, and human activity. Vast, resilient, and constantly changing, Siberia remains one of the last regions where wilderness continues to dominate the landscape rather than adapt to it. And long after the tracks disappear beneath fresh snow, life continues here, hidden among forests, mountains, rivers, and ice, as it always has.